What's going on, guys? Welcome back to #AskGSM here today, episode 618 for Tuesday, September 30th, 2025. I'm Graham GSM Matthews. Hope you guys are doing well. A little bit later than usual, but we are here. And just like that, the month of September is pretty much over. We have literally just today left, and then October starts tomorrow, Halloween season, and then Thanksgiving season starts here in the States, and then Christmas. And then it's going to be the end of the year before you know it. So let's enjoy it while it lasts. And I'm sure we're going to be getting into a lot of conversation in a few months about the greatest this of the year, the greatest that of the year. We'll deal with it when we get to it. But we do have a ton of questions to get to here today from Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube per usual, more than usual. So I'll try not to waste too much time in getting to those questions, but I do want to talk to those that are joining us here live first. I do see a few people here in the chat. I hope you guys are doing well. And thanks for joining us as always. Before we get to the chat, though, a couple quick housekeeping things per usual. That being shout-outs for the channel members. And if you are a channel member, by the way, you get to include your questions first here on the show. So, for example, Grunt, who I saw here in the chat, what's going on, Grunt? He sent in a question from Twitter. Usually I address the YouTube questions first, but because he is a channel member, I'll be answering his question first here in just a couple of moments. But shout out to Grunt. You can find him on Blue Sky at gruntwrestling.bluesky.social on Blue Sky. Also, shout out to Alexis, Miss Mod Matthews, Dillon, DiGiacomo, Mrs. Renee, DJ Swerve1 at Swerve1, WON on IG, Daniel Malcolm at I'm Quarter on X, Mr. Marceau himself, RJ Marceau at RJ_Marceau on X, John Ritland right here on YouTube, Real Honesty with John Ritland, as well as, last but not least, Richie. Find him on YouTube as well at Red Planet Wrestling right here on YouTube. More information on channel memberships, like I said, down below in the description box on this very video. Check that out. Top billing on shows like this. You get badges and emojis and the live chats here for the live streams. You get early and ad-free access to certain videos and so much more. More information on that down below in the description box of this very video, like I said before. If you just want to support the show, just like this video, subscribe as well. Hit the bell button to be notified every single time we go live here on the channel. Typically Tuesdays and Thursdays for this show, and Thursday for WrestleRant Radio. We will be live again on Thursday morning, afternoon, what have you. Usually around the same time. You know, sometimes early on Thursday mornings around 8 a.m., sometimes around 11 a.m., 12, 1. It kind of differs depending on the schedules. But stay tuned for that on Thursday. Mr. Marceau and I are reviewing Raw, all the latest in the world of wrestling. So more on that coming up on Thursday. But yeah, that's really about it. If you want to send in a question to the show ahead of time to ensure your question gets answered here on the show, in case you can't join us live, you could tweet me on the Twitter machine at WrestleRant with the hashtag AskGSM. Find me on Facebook as well, facebook.com/Graham.gsm.Matthews. Drop a comment on the post I usually put up on Monday nights, if not on the wall itself. And last but certainly not least, drop your question down below in the comment section on this very video. I'll include your question in next week's edition. So I think we're good to get going here with the chat that is joining us live. That being Johnny. I see Johnny there in the chat. What's going on, brother? He said bonjour. To answer the question for today's video, that being AJ Styles' top 5 WWE matches. Let me just double check that I'm not muted here. Sometimes I have myself muted before we go live here, and then I just don't unmute myself, and that's kind of a problem, but I think we're good. Anyway, so his answer to the question was John Cena versus Styles from Royal Rumble 2017, SummerSlam 2016, their other match, the three-way ladder match. I think he's referring to AJ, Jeff Hardy, and Sami Zayn during the Thunderdome era. I think that would have been Clash of Champions 2020, if I'm not mistaken, for the Intercontinental Championship. He also said Daniel Bryan from TLC 2018 and Dean Ambrose, their TLC match from TLC 2016. So I'll give my list in a little bit. He also said it's official, November 12th, we are getting the first women's blood and guts match. Yeah, I saw that this morning on Twitter. That was announced officially by AEW. Jamie Hayter mentioned it on Collision, which I actually have not watched yet. I've been extremely busy and just fucking exhausted for the last couple of days. I still have a lot more to catch up on, including the Collision show from Saturday. I have not even watched it yet, let alone reviewed it. But I did see on Twitter that Jamie Hayter threw out the challenge for women's blood and guts. So they are finally doing it, which is cool, because they've been having God knows a million multi-women matches. They don't really mean anything for months now. So at least it finally has some sort of, not really stakes necessarily, but like it's finally building and culminating in something. And I feel like now is as good of a time as any to be doing a women's blood and guts match. So that was announced for Dynamite November 12th, so looking forward to that. I see Grunt here in the chat. What's going on, brother? Johnny also said Gen V and Peacemaker have been doing great with the cameos. Yeah, they have been. We actually just caught up on Peacemaker last night. I know the new episodes drop on Thursdays. like I said, just super backed up right now. So we watched it last night after Raw. Alexis and I did, and it was a great episode. Honestly, the whole season's been great. I thought the first season was really, really good. Kind of took some time to really get going. I've enjoyed the second season even more than the first season, and that first season was great. The last several episodes were really good. This entire season has been very interesting, entertaining, enjoyable. I've been loving the second season so far of Peacemaker. And Gen V also so far. I think there's only been 4 episodes, if I'm not mistaken. But what we've gotten from that show so far as well has also been great. So, and I enjoy the cameos as well, like you said there. Eric, what's going on, brother? He said, hi, everyone. Hope you're doing well, Eric. I have no idea what you're talking about as far as your second comment goes. You said, hoping for a speedy recovery to, I don't know who the fuck you're talking about. So, he said Kalani being Knockouts champ. Are you talking about Kalani Jordan? Oh, okay. I apologize. Now, you spelled Kalani wrong, so I didn't know what you were talking about. And then you said KOS. Again, I'm thinking, is that a fucking indie championship or something? But you're talking about Kalani Jordan being the new Knockouts champion, KO's champion. I just clearly can't read. And then Ash by Elegance, hope for a speedy recovery. Yeah, the Kalani Jordan thing was random. I saw that initially on Twitter. That was another show. There was a lot of wrestling over the weekend. And there was fucking, obviously, SmackDown Collision, but there was also Victory Road from TNA on Saturday. MLW had an event on Saturday night. Our Victory Road was on Friday night. No Mercy was on Saturday night. I had to catch up on that on Sunday night. But I saw initially on Twitter the graphic of Kalani Jordan winning the Knockouts Championship, and I'm like, what are we fucking doing here? Like, I know they had to pull Masha Slamovich from the show, which I'll get to a little bit later on. There was some controversy surrounding her last week, and it was just one of those things where I'm thinking, why replace her with Kalani Jordan of all people and then have her win the championship? That's just so fucking dumb. But then I saw that Ash by Elegance was injured and wasn't unable to compete. She's obviously been the champion for the last month since Heatwave. So they had to pivot. I don't even think if they had done the original match, well, I mean, they wouldn't have done the match because Ash couldn't compete. But if Slamovich was there, I highly doubt they would have put the championship back on her. I guess they could have, but before the controversy went down, it is possible that they could have just put the belt back on Masha. Then the controversy happened, and then she wasn't there. Ash couldn't wrestle, so we didn't get that match at all. They instead did a battle royal to determine who would face off later on in the show for the vacant Knockouts Championship. That battle royal, the last 2 remaining competitors were Kalani Jordan from NXT, I think the only NXT superstar in the match, and Lei Ying, or what's her name? Lei Ying Lee, I believe, the former Xia Li from WWE. And she wasn't really ready to win the championship yet. I like her. Hopefully they can continue to build her up. Indy Hartwell, I think, is ready. I think Indy Hartwell can be the next Knockouts champion, but she's getting her shot at Bound for Glory. So you weren't going to put the belt on her early. I mean, she could end up losing at Bound for Glory. I would have Indy Hartwell win that match and walk out the new champion. There have been a lot of title changes recently. Masha Slamovich was the champion for the first 7 months, and then she lost it to JC Jane at Slammiversary. Really, I mean, in retrospect, they probably made the right call in not putting the 2 titles on Masha, although she is far better than JC, now knowing what Masha was involved in and whatnot. But I was pulling for Masha to win both belts, but they had JC Jane walk out the new Knockouts champion. JC then drops that championship in a fucking 3-way at Heatwave where she was not pinned the following month in an NXT show. And then, Ash has to vacate it. Kalani Jordan becomes the new champion. And now Indy Hartwell might be taking the title of Bound for Glory, which I would still do, like I said. But that's a lot of title changes in the span of like 3 or 4 months. She was probably the best option. Now, from a storyline standpoint, I don't really know why it would make sense. If we're doing in this whole invasion angle, why the fuck would Santino Marella sign off on Kalani Jordan being in his Knockouts title match and be okay with his title, another one of his championships, going to NXT after we already dealt with this a month ago with JC Jane, and the TNA World Championship is still on Trick Williams? Like, I don't honestly have an issue with Kalani Jordan as champion. I think Kalani Jordan is great. She's been spinning her wheels for a while now. This gives her something to do, albeit briefly. She's been in NXT for a long time now, and there's also the history there with her and Ash by Elegance. So I thought that was kind of cool. When she won the championship, Ash came out and congratulated her because they were like mentor and protege in NXT right before Dana Brooke got fired a few years ago. So I kind of like that storytelling. But from a storyline standpoint, I thought it was kind of odd that Jordan would even be in the match. From a booking standpoint, they didn't really have a whole lot of great options. If you watch the Battle Royal, which was kind of flat, I'm thinking, who do they even put the championship on? Like, the Knockouts division has some talented women. Rosemary's been there fucking forever, but like, you're not going to put the belts, you're not going to put the championship on the Iconics. Neither member of the Ash by Elegance brand that's still there, the Elegance brand that's still active, M and Heather, you're not going to put the championship on them. They have Tasha Steeles. She's not, at this point, to me, worthy of being Knockouts champion. She's kind of has her role in the whole Order of 4 thing. Not a whole lot of great options at the moment. I'm sure there's other women I'm not thinking of, but, you have Zaya Brookside. She's okay. I really feel like the right answer is Indy Hartwell, but you had to put the belt on someone in the meantime. I honestly think Kalani Jordan and Indy Hartwell is a better match for Bound for Glory than Ash by Elegance and Kalani Jordan, but Ash can't compete. That would have been the whole babyface and heel dynamic, but now they have the belt on a babyface. Whatever. I thought it was an interesting move. I guess we'll see what happens to it going forward. And then as far as Ash by Elegance goes, based on that announcement, I saw people saying, oh, maybe she's pregnant. We don't know what's going on with her. It's not really our business. All we know is that she can't compete and that she had to vacate the championship. I don't think she's pregnant. I feel like that announcement would have been a lot happier, and she probably would have just said that if she was actually legitimately pregnant. Maybe something happened there. Maybe she is pregnant. I don't know. I'm not exactly sure what's going on. The way she made it sound, though, did not make it sound like she's coming back. Now, I hope she does, but she almost kind of made it sound like a retirement speech. She wasn't exactly clear with what happened, and that's not really what happened. Obviously, is important. We don't really need to know her business, right now, if at all. But the way that she kind of worded her promo at Victory Road was that she might not be able to wrestle again, period. So hopefully everything's okay with her. I don't know if she has an illness or is sick or what happened, but hopefully she can make it back. But if she can't, she retires as the TNA Knockouts champion. Like, she never held gold in WWE or NXT. She was never the NXT Women's Champion, the main Women's World Champion on the main roster, nor should she have been. She was not that good. She wasn't even the Tag Team Champion in WWE as a Women's Tag Team Champion. So she finally won a championship in TNA after repackaging herself and reinventing herself, and then she gets hurt or sick or can't compete, what have you. Hopefully she's okay. Alexis also joining us. What's going on? Of course, as always, Johnny said, what story/feuds will Toni Storm be in now? I imagine she would chase the championship from here, right? I mean, she was pinned in that four-way at All Out by Chris Statlander to become the new champion, but it wasn't a singles match, so they could still build a Chris Statlander versus Toni Storm. Outside of the title picture, there will have to come a point in the very near future, now that Toni Storm is no longer a champion, where Toni can't be in the title picture forever, whether she be champion or chasing. She has to be like Rhea Ripley is right now, outside of the championship picture. I mean, for some people, the Toni Storm shtick is kind of wore thin with the whole innuendo stuff. RJ and I have joked in recent weeks in WrestleRant Radio, the whole trimming of the bush line, which was honestly pretty fucking funny because it was so random. She is still super over and still super entertaining and having great matches, so she's still very much over. But there will have to come a point where you have to develop the character and move forward, not necessarily from the timeless stuff right now, but her outside of the title picture, because it's going to get old very quickly. As it is, she's already been in the championship picture nonstop for over 2 years now. She won the championship back in, I think early 2023, and then dropped it and then won it back again when she turned timeless in late 2023. So it's been 2.5 years. She was off the show for a little while, late last year, or she came back late last year, but she was gone from All In through December. So she was off the show for a while. So although she wasn't in the championship picture at that point, she was in the title picture before she left, and she was in the title picture when she came back, before winning the belt back from Mariah May in a Grand Slam Australia in February. So they're going to have to come up with some non-title feuds for her, kind of like what we're getting right now in WWE with Rhea and Io versus the Kabuki Warriors. I think that whole thing has been great. I think what we've been getting from Bayley and Lyra isn't quite as strong, but it's still something interesting outside of the title picture. We'll see how that kind of pans out and where that goes. But it's nice that they're utilizing women outside of the main title pictures and even the mid-card women's title picture. I think AEW can also benefit from doing that. Now, they do have a lot of women on their shows as part of these aforementioned, multi-women tag team matches. We have Women's Blood and Guts coming up. But it's not really like a singular feud. It's just a lot of tag team matches that are building to a massive tag team match inside of the double cage that coincides with the announcement of AEW Women's World Tag Team titles, which is cool. I wasn't really on board with the idea for a long time, but at this point, they have a lot of teams that have been regularly featured on AEW television now for a while. So it makes sense. My only hope is that Tony Khan can apply that same energy to what we've been getting from the women's tag teams currently in AEW to doing that now that we have championships. Like, keep them defended on the shows fairly consistently. Don't let them become fucking props and pointless on the show and become an afterthought like the WWE women's tag team titles are most of the time. Not necessarily right now. I think Charlotte and Alexa Bliss have been good tag team champions. I enjoyed what they've been having going on for the better part of the year. But for the most part, since they brought those belts in back in 2019, they really haven't meant anything. So I hope the AEW Women's World Tag Team titles don't fall victim to that same issue, but I fear that they might, but it's not really something worth worrying about right now. Anyway, as far as Toni Storm goes, I really don't know what you do with her going forward. Beyond chasing Chris Statlander and ideally losing, she should not get the fucking belt back from Statlander. I kind of fear like that's going to go to Mercedes Moné. As soon as Mercedes Moné wraps up as TBS champion, or even while she's still fucking TBS champion, they might have her be the one to beat Chris Statlander for that Women's World Championship. I would not do that, personally. At least, not even anytime soon. I just wouldn't do that at all. I would put that belt on Moné at some point. I would not do it at any point for the next several months. As far as Toni goes, she really has feuded and beaten with almost everyone on that show, including women that aren't even there anymore, like Mariah May. They did that whole 2-year story with them. That was great, and that lasted Mariah's entire stint, her entire tenure in AEW. But then she left the WWE. Even people like, Deonna Purrazzo. They did that whole feud for a few months early last year. Deonna Purrazzo still works there, but she's not been on the show in a very long fucking time. Who else is even really left? Like, she has feuded. She's been there now, Toni Storm has been, for over 3 years. And she's been a fairly consistent character on the show. She really has worked with everyone. Even Mercedes Moné earlier this year, Athena just recently, Hikaru Shida, who we have not seen in the show in a long time. I don't know if she's hurt or they just don't have anything for her, but she's worked with her. I'd have to look through the roster, but she really has faced and feuded with everyone, so I'm not really sure what you do with Toni Storm beyond that. Emmanuel A., what's going on, brother? Said only here for a few seconds. Bye. Well, Emmanuel, thanks for joining for as long as you were here. Johnny said, you think Superman appears in the last episode? I think there's a decent chance. If you're talking about Peacemaker, yeah, I do think there's a decent chance. We saw, spoiler alert, the episode's been out now for about 5 days, so skip ahead by about 10 seconds, but Lex Luthor was in the most recent episode, which was a really cool cameo for last week's episode. I think there's a decent chance we see Superman, and that whatever we see in that episode or show sets up, as James Gunn has alluded to, the next Superman movie coming up in 2 years. Eric said, if Trick wins the Bound for Glory, it is time to pack it up for Santana's world title run. Yeah, I think so. I don't think Santana loses. The fact that he even lost at Bound for Glory or at Slammiversary was stupid enough. But at the same time, the only way he loses again at Bound for Glory is if TNA is just fucking positive that Santana is leaving at the end of the year. Because I think his contract expires at the end of 2024 or 2025. Now, I do think Santana ends up ultimately in WWE. It would be quite fucking weird if he was leading the charge for the TNA invasion currently, and then he just went right to WWE soon after, unless there was a stipulation that stated, like, oh, if you lose this match, you have to join our company. Even that would be kind of wonky. I don't think that happens. I think he wins the championship. Even if it's a brief run, I think they sign him. What I think will happen, I think, is if his contract is up soon at the end of the year, I think he wins the championship and he signs, or probably before he would win the championship, I would hope they would have this figured out beforehand, he would sign an extension. Now, honestly, I would keep that quiet until after the event. If it comes out before Bound for Glory that he has re-signed with TNA, then it becomes pretty obvious that he's winning. But if we don't really know what his future holds, it becomes more unpredictable. I would still have Trick Williams fucking lose the belt to Bound for Glory. He's been doing a great job as champion, but even he is main roster bound to this point. He's been in NXT, developmental for long enough. He's got to move on. They got to find something for him to do on the main roster, Raw and SmackDown, and then move on from there. But for, who are we talking about? Mike Santana. Even if it's like at least a 6-month run, you have him win the championship, hold it for a little while, and then he can move on to WWE, around this time next year or next summer, whatever. He can at least hold the championship for a little while. I think having him lose again would just be terrible. Even if he is going to WWE in the not-too-distant future. She should very much still end up in WWE eventually, but he should still very much still win the NXT or TNA World Championship before then. And be the one to slay Trick Williams at the Bound for Glory pay-per-view and walk out as the new champion. Eric said, what is your favorite version of Sting? Joker Sting, it's not even really underrated because I think a lot of people it's aged very well. It came in the wake of the Heath Ledger Joker in Dark Knight from a few years earlier. It debuted in 2011. It was a very short-lived gimmick, and I actually kind of fucking hated Joker Sting at the time. I really did not like it. I thought it was goofy. I thought it was stupid. But it ended up becoming very entertaining in retrospect, and Alexis and I watched like a compilation video of all of Sting, like the story of Joker Sting from TNA from 2011, and piecing it all together. He really did such a great job of that character. So when he showed shades of it in WWE and AEW years later, I thought that was really cool. My favorite version of Sting is basically the version of Sting we've been getting for the most part for the last 20, 30 years is Crow Sting. Like, now I was not watching WCW, mind you, but when he was able to bring that character over to WWE, and I didn't really care too much for Sting in TNA when he was there. That was when I first got introduced to Sting, when I first started watching wrestling in the late 2000s. But like when he came to WWE and the version of what he brought over to AEW, I really enjoyed that version of Sting as well. I wasn't around for Surfer Sting. I still prefer Crow Sting anyway. I just feel like it was a lot cooler, and he played that role really, really well. Johnny says he thinks Queen Maeve might appear in the last episode of Gen V. That's very possible. We have not seen her in The Boys since, season 3? It's been quite some time, so I think there's a pretty decent chance that could happen. Eric also said, Zaya is incredibly talented. I wish TNA would do more with her. Well, she just debuted. She hasn't really been there for that long, and she has been on the show fairly consistently now for the year. I think she challenged for the championship, did she not? Maybe she hasn't challenged for the Knockouts title yet. I know she did at Victory Road for the vacant title, but I'm talking about before that. She was doing some other stuff earlier this year, and now she's teaming with Zaya. Brookside, I think they're a good team. They'll probably win the tag titles at some point. So I think Xia Li was a good talent in WWE. I was kind of disappointed. She improved in WWE. I was kind of disappointed they let her go. But I think TNA is a good landing spot for her because she has more room to grow, a lot more television time. Not as big of a platform, of course, but she can improve in TNA. Maybe at some point win the Knockouts Championship, and maybe, who knows, she winds up back in WWE down the road. Fernando, what's going on, brother? Hope you're doing well. Eric said she held the 24/7 title. That doesn't count. I legitimately, when I talked about Dana Brooks' past championship runs, she held that 24/7 championship for a while and several times. That belt is such a fucking afterthought at this point. I totally forgot about that. So you are right. We will not count that. Eric said, I would love to see a Jamie versus Storm one last time match without the championship. Yeah, I think that'd be a logical direction to go in. Because as Jamie has brought up recently, which is true, and I'm glad she's acknowledged it, Jamie was taken off of the show in storyline 2.5 years ago by the Outcasts, and specifically Toni Storm, when Toni beat her for the title back at Bound for Glory, or not Bound for Glory. I'm still in TNA mode here, which I hope to attend in a couple of weeks, actually, here in the Northeast. But it was actually Toni who beat Jamie for the championship back at Double or Nothing 2023. And it was Jamie who beat Toni for the title at Full Gear 2022. So there's a lot of history there. And I think that's a feud you can explore without the championship on the line. Now that Toni is no longer champion, Jamie Hayter being the one to take that title from Toni would have been great. It wasn't her. That's fine. Chris Statlander is also a great choice. I think doing a non-title feud between Toni and Jamie is probably the way to go. Maybe you turn Jamie Hayter back heel. I would probably honestly do that. She's not remotely as over as she once was. Doesn't have the same momentum. You can turn her back heel, and I think that's totally okay. And she can be bitter over the fact that, hey, listen, Toni Storm took her out, but Toni either doesn't remember it, doesn't care, and people are cheering for her. And Jamie's bitter over that. I feel like there's a story you could tell there with that. Johnny said, will this Invasion show be better than the 2001 one? The NXT TNA Invasion show? Honestly, I feel like there's a pretty good chance. I don't know if Invasion, the show, like as a pay-per-view, is all that bad. I think the overall Invasion angle fucking sucked. I think the Invasion show itself, like, people don't talk about the Invasion show, to my knowledge anyway, correct me if I'm wrong, as like this all-time terrible show. Like, it ended up being a memorable show with some pretty memorable matches. So probably I think the WWE one will be better than the NXT one. But it's cool they're even bringing back the concept. It does feel rushed, which I'll get to. Someone asked a question about that. It does feel a little rushed to be doing that show next fucking Tuesday after NXT just got invaded by TNA a week or two ago. It's coming up way too quickly. But now we kind of know why they're doing it on that show specifically. I think the WWE one will probably be better than the NXT one. Although the NXT one, between the two Survivor Series matches they're going to be doing between the two brands and the Hardys versus Dark State, tag title for tag title, that's pretty fucking cool. I'm looking forward to that show. Millennial Noob, what's going on, brother? Said, hello, everyone. How you doing today? I'm doing well, Noob. Thanks for asking, and thanks for joining as always. Richie said he's been waiting for 84 years. Richie, what's going on, my man? Always great to see you here in the chat. He says, I am beyond upset that I can't make Bound for Glory because I have a stupid wedding to attend. Hey, listen, wrestling always comes first. Tell those people at the wedding, sorry, guys, Bound for Glory is a much bigger and better show. I got to go to Bound for Glory. I mean, at least you got to go to, I will say, Richie, at least you got to go to Slammiversary back in July, which ended up being a good show. A bummer of an ending, as we talked about at the time. But, at least you got to attend Slammiversary in the, UBS Arena, whatever it was, in Long Island a few months back. I've actually, in my 17 years of being a wrestling fan, I've attended a few TNA shows. I have never been to a TNA pay-per-view. TNA, for some reason, really doesn't do a whole lot of shows here in the Northeast. And when they have, I just, for example, I remember Samoa Joe won the TNA title from, I think, Kurt Angle in Lowell, Mass. And I was not watching wrestling at the time, so I didn't go to that show, obviously. But in the years that followed, when I first started watching TNA in later 2008, they never really came here to the States or came to the Northeast. WWE does all the time. AEW does all the time. Even Ring of Honor would run a lot of fucking shows here in the Northeast, in New York City, and some in Mass as well. TNA never really did. They have not had a show here in Connecticut in 15 years or something like that. And Mass, they wouldn't really run all that often. They would run a few shows in New York, but they weren't all that close. I've been to a couple Impact tapings, but they don't do a lot of New York City shows, Boston shows. They did a Boston pay-per-view on my birthday in 2013, but I couldn't go. So I am looking forward. I haven't bought my tickets yet for the show, but I will probably be there Bound for Glory because it looks like it's going to be a pretty fun show, and at least I can finally say I attended a TNA pay-per-view at long last. Fernando said, making Jordan Knockouts champ is a trash decision. TNA just got one of their titles back, and it is now it's back on a NXT talent. Why does Jordan deserve the title? I mean, they didn't just give it to Jordan. She did earn it in storyline. She won the Battle Royal, and then she beat Zion Lee. Zion Lee? Not Xia Lee. It's Lei Ying Lee. I forget what her name is in TNA. I know her last name is still Lei. I'm messing up her name for some reason, but she did earn it in storyline. I'm just not really sure why they would put her in the match. Because again, if these two brands are feuding and they're not happy with one invading the other, why would fucking Santino greenlight Kalani Jordan being in the match? It's not as if she took someone's spot. They didn't even really treat it like a big deal. I'm happy for Kalani Jordan. She is very good. But from a storyline standpoint, it was just kind of strange. And I was also kind of pissed. Are you fucking kidding me? They put another belt on another NXT talent. But here's what they got to do. They got to have Indy Hartwell beat her for that belt to Bound for Glory. And two, honestly, I would have a clean sweep. I would have the Hardy Boys win the NXT tag team titles. I mean, honestly, I would do that. I think Dark State winning the TNA tag titles would just be fucking stupid. That would just be dumb. I mean, I honestly kind of feel like they might do that. Because then if the Hardy Boys win both belts, they'll be walking into that match with the Dudleys at Bound for Glory as the NXT tag title is going to be in the line there as well with the Hardys and the Dudleys. I don't know. I don't really know how that changes. I would put the NXT tag titles on the Hardys. I would put the TNA title back on Mike Santana, or just on Mike Santana Bound for Glory, and I would have Indy Hartwell walk out of Bound for Glory as the new Knockouts champion. TNA's got to give them their comeuppance. They have to get their belts back, and they got to even win some NXT championships as well. That is what I would do. I don't know if they're going to do that come Bound for Glory in the weeks leading up to Bound for Glory, but they absolutely fucking should. Richie said, is there another current female talent on TNA's roster that deserves the championship? Masha ruined all future potential for herself as well. So like I said, we were talking about this before. I didn't really have the roster in front of me. Let's look at the TNA roster real quick. TNA roster for the women. Hold on. So they have Alicia Edwards. Okay, they have a lot of women, but Kalani Jordan's on their wiki roster page, even though she's an NXT talent, but she's just a fucking, and Knockouts champion, so that's why she's on there. But they have Alicia Edwards. I like Alicia. She's not winning that championship. Ash by Elegance just got hurt. Cassie Lee, no. The former Peyton Royce. Dana Luna or Danny Luna has impressed me. I think Danny Luna, I can't pronounce her name for some reason. I think she's very good, and her recent heel turn is great. I think, I'm excited to see what she can do in the heel role, and I think she's very good. So maybe Danny Luna eventually. Harley Hudson is a newcomer. She's a tag team wrestler for right now. Jada Stone, I don't even really know who that is. Heather by Elegance, no. Indy Hartwell, yes, but I think she might be winning it come Bound for Glory. Jessie McKay, the former Billy Kay, no, definitely not. Jody Threat, no. Killer Kelly, yes, but Killer Kelly came back to the company a few months ago, and then they just rushed the feud between her and Masha, and then that should have been the match at Bound for Glory, or at Slammiversary, really. And then they blew it up because they did the whole NXT versus TNA thing instead. So Killer Kelly, maybe. I think she's very underrated, but for some reason they have not done shit with her since she came back. Kylan King is hurt. Lei Yingli, that's her name. Lei Yingli. It's still too early for her, in my opinion. Mara Sade, the former Jakara Jackson from NXT, she's been in TNA now for a few months. She's also improved and gotten better, and she's impressed me. I would not put the Knockouts Championship on her right now, but she's impressed me. Matcha Slamovich, it might be just over for her based on the allegations, which we'll get into. In by Elegance, no. Myla Grace, tag team wrestler. Myla Moore, no. Rosemary, I don't really care at this point. I like Rosemary, but you're not going to put I don't know. She hasn't been champion in a decade, so maybe, but she's just kind of been there, done that. Tasha Steelz, no. Tessa, I wouldn't have put the belt on Tessa. I'm honestly kind of surprised they didn't. And they didn't run back Tessa and Indy, although they just had a match at Slammiversary that Indy won. So, if Indy's going to win the championship at Bound for Glory, you're not going to have her beat Tessa twice. It's just not really that big of a deal. There is Tessa, though. I totally forgot about Tessa. She just came back. Steph DeLander's hurt. Victoria Crawford, Alicia Fox, definitely not. And Isaiah Brookside, no. So that is their team. Those are their women, rather. Those are their options. Kalani Jordan was random, sure, but, I'd rather take her and have Indy Hartwell beat her over almost anyone else in that division. Because if you have anyone else, like her and Rosemary, they already had a match a few months ago. Like, Indy has already beaten a lot of these women. Tasha Steelz, Rosemary, Tessa Blanchard. She should be the next champion. You're not going to put the belt on one of those women I just mentioned. Unless it was Masha, if she wasn't fucking problematic, then maybe. But the rest of these women just aren't ready. So they didn't really have a whole lot of great options. Let's put it that way. Anyway, back to the chat here. Do I have faith in the Macho Man biopic? I do if they cast the right person and they do the story justice. Yeah. Depending on who's doing it, I've heard that the guy doing it is an actual wrestling fan. So I think he would do it justice. I can't, guarantee that, but yeah, I have faith in it. I don't know who would play Macho Man. I saw someone say James Storm, but I think he's a little too old at this point. Just based on looks alone and the kind of cowboy hat kind of vibe and whatnot, he would have been great. But might be a little too late for that. Alexis said, Joker Sting is one of the greatest wrestling characters of all time. Yeah, Alexis is a big Joker Sting fan. I think he played that character really well. Let's see. Johnny said, rank these versions. Mankind, Cactus Jack, and Dude Love. I would probably put him in that order. Mankind, then Cactus Jack, and then Dude Love. I never really cared for Dude Love. Mankind had so many great matches and moments. Cactus Jack is also great, more of like a hardcore version of Mick Foley. Mick Foley's just a hardcore wrestler in general. But if I had to rank them, it would be Mankind, Cactus Jack, and then Dude Love. The exact order that you put there. Richie said, never forget when Bad Bunny traded his 24/7 title for WWE merch with R-Truth just so Truth could hold the title again. Yeah, I forgot about that. Yeah, that 24/7 championship period, I am shocked. That belt lasted as long as it did in that company. It was entertaining for 6 months max, probably closer to 2 or 3. And then it was just a complete waste of space on that show for 3 years. Grunt said, AEW Title Tuesday versus NXT TNA Invasion should be a fun night. Yeah. I'll talk about that in a little bit, but that's basically why they're doing that Invasion show on that show. That's what I was alluding to. I agree, Fernando. We said everyone knows wrestling is more important than weddings. LOL. I almost actually, on a similar note, it wasn't a wrestling show. It was a wrestling show. But many years ago, my cousin was getting married, actually. There was no way I was getting out of that. But that same night, Evolve actually was having a show, and I didn't really care to attend Evolve. Like, I did end up going to a couple Evolve shows, and they were good, but I really just went to meet, like, Keith Lee and Johnny Gargano and Rhea Ripley I met at that point for the first time through Evolve. But anyway, Evolve was doing a show in New York City, and specifically on that show, they had William Regal there, available for meet and greets, because this was when WWE was still working pretty closely with Evolve before they bought them a few years later. And I was thinking that might be my only opportunity to meet William Regal. Even today, I've only had like a few opportunities like that one. He was at WrestleCon a few years ago. That same weekend, though, I met him at another event over WrestleMania weekend in 2022 in Dallas. So I didn't have to go to WrestleCon to meet him there because I already met him the day before, which was amazing. But it's not like I've had all these opportunities to meet him otherwise. And I was really fucking pissed. I had to miss that Evolve show because to go to this wedding, because Regal was right there and I would have been able to finally meet him after all those years, and I couldn't attend. I was so pissed. And then thankfully it worked out. About 5 years later, I was finally able to meet him and chat with him and get a picture with him, videotape it, the whole interaction, and have him sign the belt, the IC Championship replica belt and whatnot. So it ended up working out, but I was pissed I wasn't able to meet him on that show back in December of 2017. It did work out, though, where even if I didn't even have to attend the wedding that I was going to for my cousin that night, there was still a massive snowstorm. So I'm not even sure. I mean, I probably would have just fucking dealt with it. I've been through monsoons. I have traveled through some pretty crazy, stupid weather just to go to some shows and meet certain people. I may have done it anyway, to be honest with you, because I probably would have already bought the tickets before I even knew there was a snowstorm coming. And I think the show still went on anyway. So I would have probably made the trip, even though it would have been very dangerous. Let's see. Title Tuesday is going to be excellent, Fernando says. Grunt says, I have to see the card first before I'm going to say it's going to be excellent. Yeah, we don't really know what's going to be in the card. We don't even know, like, even the NXT TNA Invasion show. We just know both shows are next Tuesday. The only thing we know is that they're doing shows on the same night, which has been the case now for a few years. They did it 2 years ago. I think they did it last year, and probably the year before that as well. Millennial Noob said, I've been enjoying the Asuka Io Sky story, and she's been making every woman suffer because she's been getting revenge on the entire women's division for turning a blind eye on her. Well, she hasn't said that's her reasoning for turning heel. It's more so just the Io Sky thing and arguing with her, but I think that'd be a nice character motivation, though, if she had said, hey, listen, you guys got to start taking me seriously again. I was once a threat. I'm a big star, blah, blah, blah. It would make a lot of sense if she used that as one of the reasons for going heel. She's upset that she's been overlooked in recent years in that women's division, despite being one of the greatest of all time, and especially in recent years. Top 5 biopics that I've seen. Oh, I have no idea. I mean, I'm sure I've seen so many I don't even really remember. I remember watching, which ended up being a very good movie, what is it? The Rami Malek movie that came out in 2019. What the fuck is the name of that? I have it written down because it's one of the movies that Alexis wants to watch, so I have it written down on my phone. Hold on. It was like Moonlight, or not Moonlight. It was something like that. Hold on. It was, not that. Bohemian Rhapsody. I don't know why I said Moonlight. I don't know why the fuck I thought it was that. But yeah, no, Bohemian Rhapsody, I thought was a great movie. I watched that one. I'm sure there's plenty of other ones. I did not see the Elvis one. I'll probably watch that at some point. There's a lot of biopics. There's been a lot of biopics in recent years, but the first one that comes to mind is Bohemian Rhapsody, and I thought that was really good. What is my favorite Randy Savage match? I wasn't watching at the time, so I'm just kind of going off of matches of his that I've seen. Either the Warrior one from Mania 7 or him and Hogan from Mania 5. Probably him and Warrior, though. I really, really, really like that match. And obviously the post-match celebration with him and Elizabeth reuniting and that whole angle is one of the greatest of all time. So probably that one. I think the Steamboat match is excellent as well. Trying to think of what other matches I would have seen with Savage that I thought were like... I mean, he obviously had a lot of great matches, but I'm thinking matches that really stood out to me that I would consider my favorite. Probably the Warrior one for Mania 7. I thought that match was awesome. It's one of my favorite Mania matches. Not like top 5 or anything, but it's in the conversation of like top 20, top 30, whatever. It was in that list when I did that list about a decade ago. Yeah, I'm just thinking of other matches that he would have had around that time that he would have seen, not live, but like after the fact. Him and Flair had a great match at Mania 8 That was really good, where he won the championship back. Yeah, probably him and Warrior for Mania 7 I would go for. Top 5 Macho Man moments, I mean, it's kind of the same thing. Like, again, him reuniting with Elizabeth, winning the championship for the first time in Mania 4, all the basic moments. The coming together of the Mega Powers, the implosion of the Mega Powers, the match with Hogan at WrestleMania. Really, any of that stuff. I mean, I won't even include just wrestling stuff. I'll also go my number 1 Macho Man moment might be him in Spider-Man. Him as Bonesaw McGraw. Bonesaw is ready. We watched that about a month or so ago. And he's just so fucking great in that film. For as brief of a role as he had in that movie, he still plays that character so exceptionally well. That might be, honestly, my favorite Macho Man moment, is him in Spider-Man in 2002. And I actually reviewed that Macho Man book here for the channel about a week or two ago. Check that out, cheap plug. That was a great autobiography. I mean, it wasn't autobiography. That would imply that he wrote it himself. It's not. It's a biography about Macho Man. It was written by, someone that I know close through social media, John Finkel, good guy. Did an awesome job of the book. I listened to the audiobook version, and he did a fantastic job. So that's well worth checking out, and I hope they would work with someone like him to perfect that biopic, because I think he got the most complete life of the Macho Man that I've ever seen written down, or anywhere else in any documentary or anything. So I would love if they took some inspiration from that book or worked with him on the movie just to make sure it's accurate. So I would consult with him if I were the people making that movie. But I would also recommend the book, dude. The book is great. I think Fernando even said in my review, he dropped a comment saying he purchased the book recently from Amazon, which I was very happy to hear. Definitely check it out and purchase it for yourself, or check out the audiobook version. It was a very good, very complete recollection, complete history of the Macho Man's life and career. Richie said, just read that apparently Israel is big mad that WWE, at WWE rather, holding a show called Invasion next Tuesday on the 7th of October, as they feel it's too sensitive due to the attacks 2 years ago. Yeah, I saw that a few days ago. I didn't know if that was real or not. I assume it is real. I think that came from an Israeli account, I believe, on social media, like a TikTok or something. I don't know if that's been confirmed. I have not seen anything else on that from like a Fightful or a PW Insider. That could have just been a fake account. It could be real, and honestly, I would kind of understand that. Are they going to move the show at this point? No. Like, they're only doing it on that date to combat Title Tuesday from AEW, which will probably be a bigger show. The Invasion show I'm looking forward to that more, because I think the whole idea of that is fucking cool, and I've been enjoying the Invasion angle. I'll get into that a little bit later. Someone asked about it. But it being on the anniversary and stuff, I could see that being, it would honestly, I mean, I'm not even going to go so far as to say, it's, people being too sensitive, whatever. They got to get over it. That would almost be like, not the exact same thing, but to a certain degree. What if they did a show, I mean, I'm not going to say like they brought back Insurrection and did that on January 6th. I mean, that would be just fucking dumb, because it's not even like Insurrection's an actual show that we get any nowadays. They only did it for a few years in the early 2000s. But it's like if they did a show that just so happened to fall on September 11th, and it was called, like, I don't know, something that could be interpreted as offensive to the anniversary of 9/11. WWE would never do that. Again, is that a bigger deal than this? I'm not going to sit here and compare, but I could see that not sitting well with a lot of people, and understandably so. So at this point, will they change the name of the show? Will they move the show? Probably not. They'll probably just deal with the heat, especially if it's not like, I've seen people talk about it, but not to the point where people are like calling for WWE's cancellation. You know what I mean? Like, until it gets to that point, they're not going to do shit. Should they? Probably. They probably should have thought of that about ahead of time. I wouldn't have even done the show this soon. I would have held off on it for a little bit longer and then done it, a couple of weeks from now, or as a separate show, a separate PLE. They want to do it next Tuesday, so whatever. Fernando said, why are people making such a big deal about the botch in the women's title match on SmackDown? We have all seen worse. Owen botching the pile driver on Stone Cold. Well, I mean, that was bad because it legitimately broke fucking Stone Cold's neck. But that didn't look as bad, though. You watch that match with Owen and Stone Cold, I mean, especially if you think wrestling is real, you wouldn't think anything of it. Like, honestly, the pile driver didn't look bad. It looked bad. The botch on SmackDown, obviously botches happen all the time. They happen in men's matches, women's matches. People will forget about it within a week, if that. I mean, people will move on quickly. But in the moment, it looked pretty fucking bad. The match itself, I did not mind. it kind of fell apart in the final stretch there with Jade getting hurt and then the whole kick out nonsense. It looked fucking awful. It looked terrible. And they really should have communicated what happened a little bit better. And it did not come off well at all. So it got a lot of flack, rightfully so, because that was a terrible ending. It looked really, 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 really bad. But again, people move on from this stuff. Social media, people just kind of pile on shit in the moment, and then they move on. I would not be calling for Nia Jax's head. I would not be, calling for her firing from the company. People were really overreacting over it. If this was 2018 or 19, I would probably understand people being frustrated more because she was botching a lot and hurting a lot of people legitimately. That really hasn't happened in a very long time. That has not happened in quite a few years. She's improved since being back. I think she's had a much better second stint. I said that before. Accidents happen. It may not even have been her fault. Like, she may have been waiting for someone to take the ref out of the ring. I think people were blaming Tiffany, actually, and not. I think it was Tiffany's fault. I have no fucking clue. But it doesn't even really matter that much. Let's see. Richie said, I just read it on Yahoo, so who knows? That's a whole can of worms. I won't open up right now. As far as the Israel thing with the whole invasion show. Again, like I said, if it becomes a bigger story, they will change it. They don't care how people feel. They only care if it really changes sponsorship issues and they make the news for the wrong reasons, at which point they will do something. But until then, they won't do shit. We'll find out tonight on NXT if they change the date or change the name. I doubt they will. Richie said, in other news, Braun Strowman is apparently in talks to play Jason Voorhees, which would be massive for him. Yeah, that would be fucking awesome. I saw that recently. That would be really sick. I really hope he gets that role. He would just have to shave the beard, and he would be an amazing Jason. I'm just happy to see not only him potentially cast in the role if he is in talks to play that character. I'm just more excited to see Jason back on the big screen, to see Friday the 13th back in movie form, because it's been quite a few years. They haven't done a movie since, 2009? A movie that I actually liked. A lot of people shit on it. It is what it is. It's not like these movies are great anyway. I enjoyed the remake from 2009. So, yeah, no, I would love to see another Friday the 13th movie, and I would love to see Braun Strowman in the role. That'd be sick. What are some of the worst botches you have seen in wrestling, Fernando said? Oh, I don't know. Like I said, they happen, and then they kind of come and go, and then you move on. In the 17 years I've been watching wrestling, I don't know. There's been some pretty bad botches that got people hurt, like that Psycho Sid botch from WCW. That shit was so fucking disgusting. I guess that might be the worst one because that botch was so bad. Because the injury was so bad. That I would probably go with that one. But, match finishes and stuff like that, I'd have to watch a video because I kind of see it, we complain about it, and then we move on. That would be the biggest one. The one from WrestleMania 35, it wasn't really a botch necessarily, but with Becky pinning Ronda, her shoulders being nowhere near the mat, that was the intended finish. She was supposed to win that way. That wasn't a botch. But the way it came off was fucking awful. So I would put that in the conversation of recent ones just because it happened in the main event of WrestleMania and it did not look good at all, and it really made for an anticlimactic moment. Richie said, him and Cross making waves outside of WWE, love to see it. He also said Jade getting that nasty gash increased her aura by 100,000. Yeah, that nasty gash looked gross. I saw her actually post a gif or a picture of Scar from Lion King, so I wonder if she's going to have a scar when she comes back to TV. I guess we'll find out on SmackDown, but she might be sporting a pretty nasty fucking gash on her head even come SmackDown this week. Richie said, the ref should have just counted to 3. It would have protected Jade's finish and made Tiffany a tweener of sorts. That, and it could have left the door open for Jade and Tiffany to keep their feud up. So here's the thing. I've seen people say, oh, they should just, go back to what they were doing before and they should count it as a shoe and it looks bad if you don't. Honestly, though, yeah, it looks bad, but I'd rather have them, because what if Tiffany wasn't supposed to win and then she wins the championship? Just out of nowhere. And then you can change plans and then put the belt back on her or put the belt back on whoever. I feel like that makes for too much of a mess. I would rather them not count it as a shoe and then figure something else out. This has been the case with wrestling for years. I think calling it as a shoe, I think it was just fucking stupid because it made for some very dumb endings to certain matches. If it's an important match, I would not do that. If it's a throwaway match, then whatever. I would have counted to 3 for the sole reason that Tiffany was going to win anyway. Like, if Tiffany was always supposed to win, like she was pinning Nia when Nia didn't kick out, she ended up just hitting her finisher and then pinning Nia and then winning regardless, like seconds later. So they should have just had Tiffany win in that moment for the sole reason, like, I don't know if it's the ref's fault or whoever's fault, for the sole reason that she was always supposed to win. So why not just have her, pin her at that moment, and then even if she doesn't kick out, whatever. Because at least Tiffany was supposed to win regardless. Fernando said, should wrestlers get nominated for Emmy Awards? No. I mean, what wrestling acting performance would you even nominate for an Emmy Award? Certainly not Io Sky from Raw last night, I'll tell you that much. I mean, I guess they're on a TV show. So, I mean, I've seen before, like, I think it may have been Paul Heyman or whoever has really lobbied for wrestling to be included in, like, oh, these acting awards. Like when the Bloodline was really hot. Oh, man, they should get an Emmy. No, they fucking should not. Listen, I think some of the storytelling with the Bloodline and some of the segments were amazing, but compared to actual acting, it doesn't even come close. So I think that might be a bit excessive. I'm just curious who you think or what would constitute as Emmy Award-winning acting from almost anyone in wrestling ever. With the way that certain people play certain characters, like a Bray Wyatt, maybe, but even then that would be a bit of a stretch. Grunt said, literally the first thing that came to my mind, Graham, what a horrible spot. The one from Mania or the Psycho Sid one I assume you're talking about. Yeah, that shit was just fucking disgusting. Richie said, shame because Sid didn't want to do that spot, but he was apparently told to do it. Yeah, that's what makes it even worse. That shit was so fucking gross. Fernando said, do you think Jade will get the Becky bump when Nia broke her nose on live TV? What do you mean, like a literal bump on her head? Or do you mean like a bump from like, oh, she's going to look like a badass? I mean, Becky didn't really have a bump, I guess. I guess she just broke her head. So I assume you mean like she'll kind of get more over because of that. No, I don't think so. I mean, Jade is already decently over as it is. Becky was already really riding a wave of momentum as a heel that Jade just does not have. I think Jade is good. She's just not the same badass that Becky was at that point. I mean, I think it will increase her aura, like Richie said. I do agree with that. But is she going to come out looking like more of a badass because of that gash on her head? I don't think so. You also have to remember, it wasn't just the fact that Becky had her nose broken. It was that incredible visual of her standing in the crowd, going like this and talking shit and whatever as the blood's coming down her nose. Like, Jade, the way they shot it, they like basically stopped the match for like 30 seconds. That was really fucking lame. Like, when Becky got hurt, they didn't stop the show or stop the segment. They kept going and they kept rolling. They didn't shy away from it. With Jade, they kind of shied away from it. So, no, I don't think she'll really benefit in that way, but she could. She could come out on SmackDown and really act all pissed and have a fucking, I don't know, eye patch or something on. I don't know. It wasn't really her eye. I guess it was above her eye. But, yeah, no, I guess we'll see what happens on SmackDown. Grunt said, I don't want wrestling to be a part of the Emmys like I don't want pro wrestling to be a part of the Olympics. Oh, pro wrestling to be a part of the Olympics. I don't know who would ever have lobbied for that. I mean, wrestling itself, actual wrestling should be in the Olympics. Pro wrestling, why the fuck would that be in the Olympics? I feel like I've heard people lobby for that before, and I'm not really sure why, because it's not real. Like, I mean, we love wrestling, but we can all acknowledge it's staged, it's predetermined, it's fake in that sense. Why the fuck would it be a part of the Olympics? I think maybe, I feel like that was like a Bubba Ray opinion. I remember seeing someone say that at one point. I was just thinking, I mean, how far cooked are we to think that wrestling is that high up on the totem pole, that it belongs in the Olympics? Let's get real here. Fernando said, is getting a bloodline back together a long-term mistake? Are they back together full-time? I don't think they are. I think they're just setting up for war games against the Vision, and then we move on. I don't think the bloodline is back together as a full-on stable. I will eat my words if they do. If we still see the Usos teaming with Roman like full-time from 6 months from now, then yeah, I think it's too soon to be doing that because we still have the fucking MFTs on SmackDown. So it's not like we're completely gone from the bloodline stuff as it is. I think that would be a mistake to get them back together at this point. Just allow Jimmy and Jay to just be a team on their own. Jay on his own got his singles success earlier this year, former World Heavyweight Champion, Royal Rumble winner, which was great. I think all of that was very well done for the most part. You don't have to completely throw away Jay as a singles wrestler, but I mean, I think having him team with Jimmy for a little while works. having him team with Roman and getting the Bloodline back together as a babyface faction, what does that really accomplish? For War Games, I think that's great. Beyond that, there's really no purpose that should serve. Yeah, getting over bump, Fernando said. Yeah, I mean, maybe it does help her get over a little bit more. I think Jade's already over as it is. I mean, her booking's been kind of questionable recently, and it's not like she's out there having these amazing matches. Although I did think the last match that she had with Tiffany one-on-one on SmackDown, I actually really enjoyed that match. The SummerSlam match was a complete disappointment to me. I thought the rematch on SmackDown recently was better. Clark, what's going on, brother? He said, yo, Grim, hope you're well, my friend. I am doing well, Clark. Thanks for joining here in the chat. Great to see you. Hope you're doing well and everything's going great with you. He's an OG here on the channel, this Clark. Clark is a WrestleRant radio alum. He has been along for the ride for a very long time. We've been able to kind of watch and follow our respective journeys in the last, fucking 10, 12, more than 10, definitely at least 12, 13 years, Clark. It's been a long time, so great to see you, my friend. Hope you're doing well. Thanks for joining here on the channel for the today's stream. Grunt said that was a Chris Jericho take, by the way. Oh, it was a Chris Jericho take. You're right. Yeah, that doesn't surprise me. I think Bubba's all-time takes are pretty fucking bad. He's probably number one. Booker T actually had a more sensible take on the Jasmine Nick situation than Bubba Ray did. Bubba Ray was like, oh, she doesn't have the passion. She quit, blah, blah, blah. I mean, yeah, she probably wasn't as passionate, but she's also a fucking human being. And if she doesn't think that what they were offering her was enough, then she has every right to walk away if she thinks that's probably what's best for her. Could she come back at some point? Sure. Could she wrestle us? Well, sure. She probably won't. But if she didn't want to take the money, I respect that. And just sit there and probably end up getting released anyway if she saw the writing on the wall. Booker T was right to say that. Bubba Ray saying, oh, she's a quitter. You can't quit. You got to pay your dues. Like, bitch, she's been fucking there for 3 years in the Performance Center. She's been paying her dues. She also has other injuries that she already had multiple knee surgeries from playing soccer. It's probably not in her best interest to continue wrestling, in addition to all the other injuries that she probably had from being in NXT. So she probably made the right choice long term. And then Bubba's like shaming her for it. It's just fucking weird. What are my thoughts on what Gail Kim had to say about Riho? I will talk about that. Someone asked about that. So on that note, we're going to go to the scheduled questions. We will get back to the chat in a little bit. So if you're watching live or in the chat, don't worry. I will address the chat. I'll probably break up the questions a little bit here because we got a lot of questions this week. So I'll break it up a little bit. We'll answer probably half of these, go back to the chat, catch up on those for anyone that has anything else to say in the chat for right now, and then we'll finish out the rest of the questions. So let's go to these questions. First sent in from Average Grunt, the man himself from Twitter. He said, do you see people being more forgiving of Moxley's title defenses from his Death Riders run in the future, now that we have the hindsight of knowing that it all leads to him losing to Adam Page at All In, particularly his match with Swerve from Dynasty? No, I don't think so. I mean, it was great that the end game delivered. They definitely stuck the landing, but I don't think just because you stick the landing, that makes up for a very uneventful run or a run of pay-per-views with matches that had interference after interference. I think of Roman Reigns. I think Roman Reigns' all-time, in my personal opinion, and this might be a hot take, but I think some people might agree, I think a lot of people would not. I think Roman's run as world champion, although it was very long in the tooth by the end there, is probably the greatest world championship run in WWE history. World championship run for the men, in my personal opinion. Not just because of length, but because of the great storytelling, how he really benefited from it, the overall company benefited from that storyline. They really milked that thing for all it was worth. And they stuck the landing. And, I mean, yeah, but the thing with Roman, why I bring that up, not everything was great, though. The last year plus, the last year and a half, he was not full-time. He was barely on the show. I mean, he was on the show when it mattered most, like for Manias and SummerSlams and stuff like that. War Games a time or two. But he wasn't there for every show. So, for example, and we've talked about this before, like, oh, did WWE make the right choice by keeping the belt on Roman for an extra year? The match with Cody was amazing at Mania 40, even better than their 39 match, but that 39 match was also excellent. And they could have put the belt on Cody at that point, and it really would not have affected Roman's run. It still would have been one of the greatest world title runs of all time. Roman holding the belt for another year made the match with Cody and the moment with Cody beating him at Mania 40 mean a little bit more. I still wouldn't say it justified it. Like, I would not sit here and say, as they've always said, oh, yeah, they made the right choice. I'm so glad Cody lost at 39. I have said that it worked out for the better, but had Cody won at 39, it would have worked out just as well. if not as great, with the moment not being as special with all the run-ins and shit like that, like the Avengers Endgame style cameos with everyone else that got involved in that match. But it doesn't justify that decision, or having, or at least in the way that they did it. Having Roman beat Cody the way that he did was just fucking lame. Like, they already banned Solo from ringside, so the fact that he came back, if that was Solo's debut, that would be one thing. But it wasn't his debut. He was already in the match, already involved earlier on. They banned him from ringside. Then he came back and helped Roman win. That finish sucked. My point is, with Jon Moxley, it doesn't make up for the amount of lackluster matches he was having during his time as champion. Some matches were very good, but the overall storytelling sucked. The Death Rider story was just awful. And it's not even as if, in my personal opinion, this has never been confirmed. I am not convinced that Adam Page was always the one slated to beat Jon Moxley for the championship on that show. I think there's a very good chance that it was going to be Will Ospreay at either Forbidden Door or at All In. And then they switched it to Adam Page instead, because we heard all those reports at the time back at Double or Nothing that they were kind of going back and forth on the finish. If you were so set on Adam Page being that person, then why would they have gone back and forth on that finish? I also believe that it was going to be Darby Allin being the one to take that championship from Jon Moxley. I think Adam Page was a better choice, although he's already been world champion before. For that moment, I think he really should have been the one to beat Moxley, and he did. And that match with Moxley was great. But it doesn't make up for the matches with Adam Copeland that were really just fucking boring, and the terrible finishes in those matches. The Swerve match was decent, but that finish was just awful. He had some other matches I just didn't really care for. So, no. I mean, if it was redeemed, then maybe you would go like, oh man, like now that we know the end game, I'm really going to go back and watch these Moxley matches on pay-per-view. I'm not. There's matches from Roman's run, not to compare the two specifically, but there's matches from Roman's run, although it went on longer than it should have, I think we can all agree with that I would go back and watch. There's stories told during that run I would go back and watch. There is legitimately nothing from that Moxley run as world champion I would go back and watch. None of the matches, none of the promos, none of the moments. The only thing I would rewatch from that Moxley World Championship run that Moxley himself was involved in was the match with Adam Page at All In. They stuck the landing. Everything else about that run, to me, fell flat. Television was at an all-time low. It was very boring to follow the show during that point. The Death Riders were just a fucking death for the AEW during that period. I'm just glad they ended it on a high note. Everything else about that run, though, was largely bad. Aside from CM Punk's day-long run as champion, which was just, obviously that's like considered the worst run because it was a fucking day long or a few days long. I would say, and I've said this before, I think Moxley had the worst AEW World Championship run in company history. It lasted a long time, but who had a worse run? MJF had a great run. I think he's one of the better ones. Omega had a great run. Like I said, Punk's runs didn't really exist. But even Moxley's previous runs were better than that last run that he had with the championship. Danielson run was brief. Even that was better than Moxley's run, in my opinion. Jordan B. from YouTube, their first question was, before their one final beat match on NXT back in 2020, if NXT TakeOver Tampa Bay had not been canceled due to the pandemic, what do you think the stipulations would have been for Tommaso Ciampa and Johnny Gargano? For some reason at that time, I thought it would have been a Hell in a Cell match. I remember saying the same thing around that point. I always thought that a Hell in a Cell match would be the perfect way to blow off that feud with Gargano and Ciampa. Now we'll never know, because like you said, that show got canceled. They ended up doing it on NXT TV instead. That was basically their takeover, but it was like an edition of NXT. And then it ended up turning into a cinematic match, which was not great. It was pretty boring, actually, for the most part, but they brawled all around the arena. They utilized the stipulation well, but it kind of reminded me of the Edge and Orton match from Mania that year that was just really drawn out. But anyway, what stipulation would they have done? Probably an unsanctioned match, which I know they had already done 2 years earlier over Mania weekend in 2018. It was either that or Last Man Standing, or I think their match in 2019 was supposed to be a 2 out of 3 falls match, I believe, with Gargano and Ciampa. That wouldn't have made sense for their match in 2020 because the championship wasn't on the line, so I wouldn't have done that. They already did Last Man Standing at TakeOver in 2018 as well, so I'm not really sure. I think Hell in a Cell would have been great, but the only reason why I doubt that they would have done that match is because it's not even that they didn't do it for that match. They've never done Hell in a Cell in NXT. They never did prior to that point, and they never have since. I feel like Hell in a Cell is one of those things that Vince, when he was running the company, wanted to keep exclusive to the main roster and not water it down by doing it in NXT. So I don't think he would have greenlit Triple H doing a Hell in a Cell match in NXT. I think it would have probably been another unsanctioned match or just a no-holds-barred match at most, at least. Street fight, whatever. I find it very hard to believe that they would have done a Hell in a Cell match. Even NXT Homecoming. Let me see here. Just give me a second because my thing said it was disconnected. Okay. It should be good now. It says reconnection successful. If it disconnected, I apologize, and we should be good now. But anyway, he asked, since Regal booked Shawn Michaels and Triple H in a War Games match at NXT Homecoming, if they were still in their prime, who would you put on Team Michaels and Team Triple H? He added, for fun, you can only use the current roster. For Team Triple H, I would add Randy Orton, Finn Balor, Aleister Black, and Drew McIntyre. For Team Michaels, I would add John Cena, LA Knight, AJ Styles, and Cody Rhodes. That's a very interesting question. So if Triple H and Shawn were still in their prime and could wrestle, what would a team with the current roster, a Team Triple H and Team Shawn Michaels look like for War Games? It's a great question. So I would take your teams and kind of tweak them a little bit. For Team Triple H, I would have it be Randy Orton, just given their history in Legacy. Seth Rollins, given his history with Triple H in NXT and as part of the Authority. I'd have Rollins on that team. Roman Reigns for the history with Triple H as well as Seth Rollins. You got the Shield connection there. And then Cody Rhodes for his connection with Randy Orton and just being, I don't know, I feel like he's more of a Triple H guy than a Shawn Michaels guy. So I would go Triple H, Randy Orton, Cody Rhodes, Seth Rollins, and Roman Reigns on one team. For Team Shawn Michaels, I would have Shawn Michaels himself. If we're including the current roster and John Cena is on the current roster, I would put John Cena on Team Shawn Michaels. You can have Cena on either team, but I just felt like it would be more even if he was on the Shawn Michaels team. It's not like Cena was any closer to one guy or the other during his career. So Shawn Michaels, John Cena, AJ Styles. I feel like AJ and Shawn being on the same team would be amazing. CM Punk. I mean, I think having CM Punk team with Triple H would just be fucking sacrilegious at this point, given their history in 2011 and whatnot. I mean, they're on good terms now, but I would still put Punk on Team Shawn Michaels. And then it includes someone, because you put like Aleister Black in there and Finn Balor. Like, those guys I like, but they feel out of place in a match like this. I know that you're including them because they came up on the black and gold brand under Triple H. I wouldn't put them in there, but to include like an NXT person that Shawn Michaels booked and was probably high on, Carmelo Hayes would feel out of place, so I didn't include him, but Braun Breaker. Braun Breaker was a Shawn Michaels project, basically. Shawn Michaels was running NXT when Breaker really had his run there as NXT champion and whatnot, so I would put Breaker on Team Shawn Michaels. So again, it would be Triple H, Randy Orton, Roman Reigns, Cody Rhodes, and Seth Rollins versus Shawn Michaels, John Cena, AJ Styles, CM Punk, and Braun Breaker in War Games. What a fucking match that would be. You could probably book that in 2K25. Or I think it might be 4-on-4 in 2K25, so you'd have to take two people out. I'm not sure. Fresh and Fly from YouTube. What are your top 5 AJ Styles matches in WWE? So this is today's headline question. The second match with Cena is his best match in WWE. That would have been SummerSlam 2016. I am biased because I was there, but take away my bias and my answer does not change. That match was fucking awesome. So him and Cena from SummerSlam 2016, him and Cena from Royal Rumble 2017. I don't typically put repeat matches, but both matches are just so great, you have to put them in the conversation. I love their first match. I would not put their first match on the top 5. I would put their second and third match from SummerSlam and Royal Rumble, respectively. I would say the Daniel Bryan match, I think you mentioned, or Johnny mentioned here in the chat earlier on. That would have been TLC 2018, a very underrated match. That's not a great show. But I remember watching that match. They went out there and put on a fucking wrestling clinic. They had a fantastic match on that show. And people don't talk about it enough as far as it being as good as it was. They had a pretty lame, bad match at the Rumble the following month. I don't know why the two matches were so drastically different in quality. But it wasn't a TLC match. It was just at the TLC show. And they had a lot of matches in WWE. Did Bryan and AJ, with both guys reversing the roles, both baby faces, one's a heel, one's a baby face, whatever. I thought that was their best match. So TLC 2018, the Shane McMahon match from WrestleMania 33. I know Richie said a while ago, like, oh, it was the best opener in Mania history. I don't even think it's top 3, but it is a great opener, and it's a great AJ match. Shockingly. I mean, to say that's in AJ's top 5 WWE matches is tough, but I would probably put it in that conversation. And then finally, I was kind of struggling as far as what the 5th match would be. I was thinking of putting the Taker Boneyard match in there, but it's not really much of a match. It is a match, but it's more of a cinematic match. So I feel bad kind of putting that in there, although it was a great way for Taker to close out his career, considering the circumstances. I wouldn't put the Taker match in there, although it is a very high honorable mention. He had a great match during the pandemic in the PC with Daniel Bryan for the IC Championship. It was like a fucking 30-minute match. People don't really remember that, but I remember thinking the match was awesome. The three-way that you also mentioned with Hardy and Sami Zayn, the ladder match, all of those matches are great, but they all happened during when there were no fans, so it's kind of hard to put any of those in the top 5. I'm trying to think of what else. I mean, Ages had a lot of great matches, but none that would really stand out as amazing beyond this 5th one that I would include, the second Roman Reigns match. Another match I was there for, actually. I was actually there for 3 of these matches. I was also there for the Shane one at Mania 33, but the Roman match from Extreme Rules 2016, a fantastic match. Roman retained the championship on that show. They have not had a one-on-one rematch since then, but they had a really, really good match on that show. So I would go the 2 Cena matches from the Rumble and SummerSlam, respectively, in 2016, 2017. The Daniel Bryan match from TLC 2018. Shane McMahon at WrestleMania 33 in 2017. And the Roman Reigns match, their second match from Extreme Rules 2016. The Ambrose match I would also put up there, high on the list, from TLC 2016. James Ellsworth helping AJ win was kind of fucking lame. I mean, I get why it made sense for the story, but that was kind of a stupid finish. So I don't know if I'd put in the top 5 for that reason alone. But his matches with Dean that fall, that winter were great. He had a lot of great matches. AJ's had a lot of great matches in the last 10 years of WWE. They were more so front-loaded, though, as far as some of the matches he was having in his first few years compared to the last few years. But I would say those are my top 5 personally. His second question, can you rank all of the Cody Rhodes, Seth Rollins matches from worst to best? So assuming we're just talking about their 3 matches from 2022, because they may have had a match. I feel like they had other matches when Cody was feuding with the Shield and with the Authority back in late 2013, 2014. Maybe they didn't have a singles match. I don't remember, but I'm only going off of their matches from 2022 because I don't think they had any other matches otherwise on Raw or on SmackDown or on pay-per-view until Crown Jewel this year. I would rank them in the order in which they happened. Now, I think a lot of people would probably put the Backlash match last because they remember that one the least. But I was at the first 2 of those matches. I was there for the first one at Mania 38, and then I was there for the Mania Backlash match because it was in Rhode Island the following month. And both of those matches were great. I think the second one was better, though. They opened up that Mania Backlash show, and they had an amazing match. I think the first match was excellent, but it was more about the moment of Cody being back and whatnot. It's just a testament to their chemistry that you could really go in any order, and you probably wouldn't be wrong because that's an amazing trilogy, one of the greatest trilogies in WWE history, in my opinion, between those 2. I think the best matches happened like they only got better as they progressed. So I would go weakest, the Mania match. The second match, I'd go Mania Backlash, and then their best match was the Hell in the Cell match from Hell in the Cell 2022, the final Hell in the Cell pay-per-view they actually ever did. No L from Facebook. Now that AEW has women's tag team titles, who should be the first team to win them? It's a good question. There's no shortage of options, obviously. Ty Mello and Anna Jay have been teaming, they've been friends for years now. So I feel like it would be fitting if they were the first team to win the championships because they've been a team for so long and they probably, I would say they deserve it. They're a good team. Either them, I would not put the belts initially on Toni Storm and Mina Shirakawa. That's a direction for Toni, by the way. She's friends with Mina. She can go after the tag title, so that is something you could do with Toni. Not outside of the title picture, but it's outside of the main top 2 title pictures, I guess. Chris Statlander, Harley Cameron, no. So either Anna Jay and Ty Mello or Triangle of Madness, because they're like an actual team, like with a team name. They got the same theme song and stuff. I think Ty Mello does too, in Anna Jay, or Tay J, whatever they're called. So either Triangle of Madness, or if you want the feel-good first champions, I would go with probably Mello and Anna Jay and give them the tag titles before anyone else. No L's second question, thoughts on the whole TNA NXT Invasion storyline, and do you see it ending in a War Games match? So on that same note, Christopher L. from Facebook also asked about this. I might as well just include it here while we're talking about it, and then we'll probably go back to the chat after I answer this question or these couple of questions. But Christopher L. also said, what are your thoughts on the TNA Invasion storyline with NXT? Too little, too late, too rushed, or shall we see when it happens? I feel that they should have literally done this right before the announcement of their partnership. In all honesty, I don't know if this invasion storyline has much legs to stand on, or is that believable because of the business history of the invasion storylines. TNA had very little to gain in this because NXT is pretty much all of their titles and has made them feel below them. So how does TNA have a dog in this fight? I don't know. I just feel like this should have been given more thought before that forced an unnatural brawl, rather, to end Tuesday's show. What do you think? Is it too rushed or waited out, or is it too little too late? I think you have a lot of great points there. I think the whole TNA invasion thing I've enjoyed because I follow both products. There's not a whole lot going on with NXT right now. He did ask me about No Mercy over the weekend, so I'll get to that in a little bit after we take our brief break with the chat in a moment. I think the invasion itself was cool. Like to see Matt Cardona in there, Eric Young back in NXT for the first time like a fucking decade was kind of crazy. Yeah, no, I think the invasion stuff is cool, but I think you're right though. As far as like the invasion itself, it feels the timing I'm not a fan of. The invasion itself I'm cool with. I think it would have packed more of a punch instead of slow. Like maybe they did this the way that they did initially by having Trick take the title. And then you take the women's title from TNA and JC James, the Knockouts champion, and all that other shit. They may have done it the way that they did, so the NXT audience was more familiar with these people before they just randomly showed up. But I feel like you're right. It would have made more of an impact how they just done the invasion from the get-go. And then it's like, holy shit, like it would have been more shocking. This has been in the works now for so long that it's not really all that surprising. And the timing is an issue because if they wanted to establish these people on NXT TV first, I don't blame them for that. My issue is, one, TNA lost both of their top titles to NXT in fucking July. It is almost October. It is October tomorrow. Why are they just invading now? Why did they take this long to invade NXT? My second question is, why are we then rushing into an invasion show next Tuesday? I already know the answer is because they're doing the AEW Title Tuesday show. They want to combat Title Tuesday again. That's why they loaded that NXT 2 years ago with fucking Undertaker and John Cena and Cody Rhodes. I don't know what they did last year to combat Title Tuesday, if they even did Title Tuesday. But 2 years ago, it was a big deal. And I think NXT actually had the better show of the two, in my opinion. I remember more about that show. But the invasion thing, it's cool that they're combating AEW with that. But the timing just sucks. Like, we just had them invade, and then all of a sudden we're going to be blowing it off with two fucking Survivor Series matches. To answer No L's question, I don't think we get War Games. Like, WWE's already doing War Games at Survivor Series. I'd be shocked if they did another War Games, but at NXT. They haven't done War Games in NXT since they gave up the concept to the main roster, and I think that's by design. I don't think they want to water it down, like I said, by also doing it in NXT. I think it's cool that they're kind of swapping. We're getting Survivor Series matches in NXT and War Games matches on the main roster. I wouldn't even really do a War Games match at Survivor Series necessarily unless it really means something. I've said that before, but this year it looks like it makes sense with the whole Team Roman, Team Vision thing. So, okay, whatever. With the women, it doesn't feel like it makes sense, but again, whatever. As far as the invasion storyline goes, I've been digging it for the most part, but the pacing of it is my problem. Like, to rush into the invasion thing next Tuesday, oh, we're doing tag title for tag title. Okay, like, why? You know, and Bound for Glory is the following Sunday, so I assume that's where TNA gets their titles back. Is the invasion storyline over as soon as next Tuesday? Like, that just seems like they're doing the show 2 weeks after they invaded, as opposed to a month later and really building to it and establishing more, you know, not just doing two storyline or two Survivor Series matches, but doing, like, different title for title matches or champion versus champion or a big name here versus big name there. Maybe they feel like they've already done all the big matches they can do between the two brands. I don't know. But my biggest issue with this storyline has been the pacing of it. I feel like it just could have been better. I'm looking forward to the show next week, but I do feel like the pacing could have been better. So let's go back to the chat here for a little bit before we go back to the scheduled questions. Maria, what's going on, brother? Maria. I meant to say Fernando, what's going on, brother? But Maria, what's going on? Thanks for joining. Sorry you're late. No worries at all. He said, Nia getting too much criticism. I agree. I think it is too much criticism for Nia. It may not have been necessarily her fault, but, you know, shit happens. If this was 2016, 2017, 2018, 2019 Nia, where she was botching all the time and hurting people, then yeah, she deserves the criticism, but she's been fine since she came back, so I don't really think it's that big of a deal. Fernando said Drew has been cast for Henry Cavill's brother in the new Highlander movie. I did see that. That's awesome that Drew's getting more roles. He was just in that movie with Batista last year. I think Batista's in that Highlander movie, if I'm not mistaken. Maybe he's not. I don't know. But Drew was in. I interviewed for the movie too. Like I interviewed people from the movie. Not I Spy. It was whatever that movie that Batista was in last year. It was the movie was okay. It was all right. But I think Drew did well for the small role that he had in that movie. Richie with the Love Ziggler emojis in the chat as well. He also said, do I think Johnson, his final opponent, should be the great Khali inside the Punjabi prison, and why? Hey, honestly, why not? Why not? He's a former rival of John Cena's. We haven't seen Khali back in WWE in years, so why the fuck not? Richie also said, did Shawn Michaels get his knees done yet? And on the same topic, has Kevin Owens gotten neck surgery yet? No and no. I think Kevin Owens, I feel like if he did, he would have said that he did. He said that he didn't as of like a month ago. And then Shawn only talked about his knees getting replaced like a few weeks ago. So considering he's still making appearances at like AAA and we haven't heard him not being at NXT, I don't think that's happened yet either. It's probably coming up at some point, but I don't think it's happened yet. I agree, Maria. We miss you, KO. Maria also asked, better AJ entrance song, the TNA one or the WWE one? Both are great. I honestly prefer his Ring of Honor song, Demigod. All of AJ's songs are bangers. You know, we had a lot of great songs in TNA, all the variations of I Am. The New Japan song is good. I didn't really watch New Japan all that often, so I like the Ring of Honor one way more. That might be my favorite one, to be honest. But between the WWE one and the TNA one, I'm going the TNA one. The WWE one is great. It's a great song, but it's hard to go wrong with Get Ready to Fly. Grunt said, fair enough answer. For me, the reason I dislike Swerve versus Moxley was because Moxley went over. Now that I know it leads to some great moment at All In, I'll be watching it back myself to see how I feel. I still don't feel like the match was all that great. Like AEW, dude, they have great matches in their fucking sleep. Like I have seen better matches on Dynamite than Moxley and Swerve. It will not even be in the top 30 matches that this company's produced this year. So I understand what you're saying, like, knowing that, okay, it's okay that Swerve lost. The outcome was fucking awful, dude. Like, we all wanted Swerve to win. Now, knowing the belt went to Moxley or went to Page, I understand what you're saying. But that's almost like saying with Drew and Roman, and to go back to the Roman comparison for a second, I was fine with Drew losing at Clash in the Castle because I knew Cody should be the one to beat Roman. I thought it would have happened at 39. It didn't. Okay, whatever. But I was okay with Drew losing. I still think Roman and Drew had a great match. Like, even though Drew lost in his hometown and it was a deflating moment, I liked the finish more because Solo debuted. I thought that was well done. And I still think the match was great. I did not think Moxley and Swerve was all that great. That was in the middle of all the fucking bullshit they were doing, and the Bucks came back. That finish was awful. That was one of the worst finishes in that company's history. It was just absolute ass cheeks. My favorite farewell match? Probably Ric Flair and Shawn Michaels from Mania 24. I just think that's a great match, very emotional. Great way to end Ric Flair's career up until he came back to the ring anyway. So probably Shawn and Ric Flair from Mania 24. Well, there you go. Grunt even said, even back then, I personally enjoyed the Bucks costing him the match. Well, I didn't. I thought that was stupid. That finish was awful, at least in my opinion. My favorite Survivor Series ever? Survivor Series 2002. Not even close. It might be one of my favorite shows, period. That show's fucking amazing. We should do a watch-along for Survivor Series 02. How fun would that be? Top 5 War Games matches, including NXT and WCW. I have not seen any of the WCW ones. I have never seen any of the WCW matches, so I can't speak to those. I've only ever seen the NXT ones and the main roster ones. I think the one they did in 2022 with the Bloodline and Team McIntyre was really good. I was there for that one. In 2023, Team Cody versus Team Judgment Day. None of the women's one really stand out. Like, all of them kind of felt like, oh, all the hardcore bullshit. I mean, the women's ones were good. The one last year was fucking awful. That one I thought sucked. A lot of botches, mistimed shit. That one sucked. I thought last year's War Games match was very good. You know, all the recent men's games, War Games matches were great. What was the one in 2024? Oh, I guess that one, actually. Yeah, so all three that they've done on the main roster were great. The early ones in NXT I thought were a lot of fun. They all kind of blend together for me because they're all good to great. But, yeah, I haven't seen any of the WCW ones, and the women's ones I would still put underneath all the ones in NXT. Richie said, War Games has become Triple H's Hell in the Cell. Doing the gimmick match over and over makes it lose luster. Granted, it's only once a year, but not everyone needs the stipulation. I agree. Doing it on the same show every year kind of waters down the matches. Like, for example, last year's women's War Games match did not need the fucking cage, and it turned out to be a terrible match. That would have worked just as well as what a concept here, a Survivor Series elimination match. So I agree. I think it's going to get to a point where people are sick of seeing it. We're not quite there yet. I'm sick of seeing it personally. I think it makes sense for this year's Team Roman, Team Vision match, but only do it when it makes sense. Like, that was my biggest criticism with Blood and Guts and AEW, their War Games match. They were doing it, they would like run the match first at Double or Nothing in a fucking Stampede match or Anarchy match, and the rematch would always be Blood and Guts a couple of months later. That was literally the formula for like 3 or 4 years. They did not do that this year. To their credit, Tony Khan did not do that. They are doing Blood and Guts this year, but it's actually happening in November, and it's with the women. So they're only doing it because it makes sense, which I like. Henry Cavill, the WWE confirmed, hey, he's not in DC anymore. He's not in DC anymore, so he might have some time on his hands. Why not? The Killer's Game. That was the Batista movie that Drew was in. Thank you, Fernando. I did watch the movie. It was decent. It was good. I interviewed Drew actually for that movie, and he was great to chat with last year. Interviews available here on the channel, cheap plug. But I actually bought the book version of the movie as well because it was on sale at Barnes & Noble. So, yes, it was called The Killer's Game. I'm going to have to get that renamed to Heartbreak Knees instead of the Heartbreak Kid. Yeah, his knees are cooked, which is why he should not and will not wrestle again. I know there was a lot of conversation. Oh, Sean's going to wrestle in Saudi. I think Sean himself said that he would not. He goes, come on, man. I need my fucking knees replaced. That's not happening. But maybe he will. Maybe he'll shock us, and he will anyway, which would be awful. Fernando said your favorite match from the original Invasion PLE from the main roster. Oh, I don't know. I have only seen that Invasion show once. I don't think I have a favorite match on that show. Let me look at the card real quick. Invasion 2001. Probably the main event, right? Wasn't the one that was Stone Cold went babyface for like 6 days, and then he turned heel on Team WWE by the main event? Edge and Christian versus Lance Storm and Michael. I don't remember personally. I mean, maybe RVD and Jeff Hardy, they had a hardcore match, the Hardcore Championship. Probably that one. The main event I remember, I think the Survivor Series match was way better, though. Yeah. Honestly, looking at this card, maybe the NXT match will be better. Maybe the NXT Invasion show will be better than this one. Maybe it will be better after all. Looking at this card, fucking Raven, William Regal, Billy Kidman, and X-Pac. Like, what kind of invasion was this? Trish Stratus and Lita versus Tori Wilson and Stacy Keibler in a bra and panties match. What an instant classic. Tajiri and Taz sounds fun, though. Yeah, this sounds like a fucking ass card. So honestly, maybe I take back what I said earlier. Maybe the NXT Invasion show. Maybe I'm mixing it up in my head. I said it was a memorable show. I mean, I guess not, actually. Maybe I'm just thinking of Survivor Series, because they did more Invasion matches at Survivor Series that year that were way better than that shit. Anyway. Let's see. Maria says, if you're Tony Khan, who should be the first women's blood, or who should be in the first women's Blood and Guts? I think, well, someone asked a question about this. Millennial Noob said, what are my thoughts on AEW finally doing women's Blood and Guts match? As much as I'm excited for the match, I don't know what teams will be in it. So I guess I'll answer his question and yours at the same time. It's really not a hard match to book because they've already been doing fucking 10-woman all-star tag matches for months now, so you just use the same women. I think you do all a Triangle of Madness, Tekla, Sky Blue, and Julia Hart, and then you either put, if it's 5-on-5, probably just Megan Bayne and Penelope Ford, who have been involved in these matches for a while now. If you want to put like the heels in there, like Athena and Billy Starks, they haven't really been involved in the whole feud, so I wouldn't put them in there. I think Athena might be hurt. Actually, no, I don't know if she is hurt. I think she was hurt coming out of, oh no, maybe she, I don't know. I don't know if she's hurt or not, but she just wrestled recently, so I don't think she is. But anyway, it would probably be Megan Bayne and Penelope Ford. And then on the babyface team, you have Anna Jay, Ty Mello, Willow Nightingale, Chris Statlander, and Harley Cameron. I mean, Statlander's women's world champion now, so I don't really know if you need her in there necessarily. There's other babyface teams that they've used, but probably a combination of the women I just mentioned. I mean, I really don't think it's difficult to fill out the match because, like I said, they've been having matches anyway for a while. So you could just use any of those women and it would make sense. Maria said Athena's taking some time off. I think that's what I saw. Okay, that makes sense. So I guess, I mean, Blood and Guts is in November. She could be back by then, but why would you put her in there if she has nothing to do with any of those women? So I wouldn't necessarily do that myself personally, but I guess you could. I would just leave it to, the women that I mentioned. I would not put Athena and Billy Starks in there personally. Anyway, let's go back to the scheduled questions here and finish these out before we head on out of here. Christopher L's first question said, howdy, Graham, from Facebook. He said, howdy, Graham, hope you had an incredible time in Orlando and are doing well back home. Just a little heads up, I'll be asking mostly what your thought questions, he said, because a lot of people acted like children this week on Twitter, and yet we're supposed to accept this as just normal human interaction. He said, anyway, on to the questions. What were your thoughts on NXT No Mercy? I thought, just like Heatwave and Homecoming, I thought it was underwhelming with most of the matches stuff you would see on any random episode, especially with the women's title match. Javon Evans versus Briggs and Sol Ruka versus Jada Parker being filler matches with no real heat. I also thought the Keed match was pretty plotting and dull, with neither woman getting a ton of heat, a stupid spot with Mariah cutting some of Jordan's hair, which was a shot at AEW, of course. Why would it be a shot at AEW? I did not understand it at all. How would that be a shot at AEW? Did AEW do something else recently that would mirror that? I don't know. Anyway. And he said, in some of the matches, like a freaking hairdryer being used. I just don't think this match warranted the cage match because I just don't buy the chemistry with Blake and Jordan. I did like the world title match. And yes, while we do know why Ricky won it, it's still cool to see him win a world championship. I actually don't know why Ricky Saints won the title. I think it's cool that he won the championship, but I don't know what you're alluding to as far as why he won it. Just to take a shot at AEW, I don't really think that's why they did it. I mean, he probably would have fucking won it anyway, but anyway. He said, overall, I just don't find any reason to care about NXT at the moment. Did you see the show? What did you think? And do you think creative needs to put more effort into making these shows feel more urgent and special? For the most part, I agree with what you said. It was really a nothing show. It was very much, I mean, I enjoyed Homecoming. I thought Homecoming was great because it was a lot of nostalgia, being back at Full Sail. But as far as the NXT PLEs, Stand and Deliver was actually a great show. Battleground, Great American Bash, Heatwave I thought was good. I was there for that show. I thought it was good, but it wasn't great. The main event was easily the best thing on that show. And then this show, No Mercy, they all kind of blend together. They're just not necessary. Like, I would honestly only really do these takeovers at this point, maybe 4 times out of the year and not every other month or every month. They're going to be doing Halloween Havoc, which I love. I love Halloween Havoc, but a lot of these shows just don't mean anything. And a lot of these cards don't really have any potential. Like, they have one standout match. The rest of the card is just kind of there. And they don't feel special. Like you said, I don't really feel the urgency to watch these NXT shows. I did not watch No Mercy until well over a day later on Sunday because I was busy and didn't really have the time or the urgency to watch the show. I would have stayed up late to watch it. I was like, I'm good. I'll wait. So yeah, I did like Ricky and Oba. I thought the Oba Javon Evans match was better, honestly, from Heatwave. I thought that match was much better. Ricky winning it kind of felt, the timing of it felt random, but I'm happy for him. I like Ricky Saints a lot. I think he's great. I'm happy he's champion. Him being the one to beat Oba is totally fine by me. But yeah, there's just really nothing urgent about a lot of the matches on these shows. So if you don't care about NXT, I don't fucking blame you. There's a lot about NXT currently. I don't really give a shit about the show. I don't really give a shit about. There are a lot of people on the show that I think are very talented, specifically their women's division. I like Jordan. I like Blake Monroe. Oba's great. Javon Evans is on fire right now, but there's a lot of other parts of the show that just are kind of there and not really doing much for me, like JC Jane I don't give a fuck about, and I don't know. NXT is just really there right now. They'll have the occasional must-see great show, but it feels like it's once in a blue moon. Like, they'll have this one standout show every 6 months, and then it's back to the same old shit. It's not a bad show, as bad as it was when it was NXT 2.0 necessarily, but it's still not an overly important show by any means. His next question, what are your thoughts on your colleague Eric Beeston's list on the 25 greatest women's wrestlers of all time? Is it a lot of recency bias, or do you agree with what he says? So yeah, we, Bleacher Report, did a top 25 list of the greatest women's wrestlers ever. That's what Becky's been talking about recently on Raw and whatever. And I say we, I mean, he was one who did the list. There are some lists on BR that we collaborate together on, like the 50 greatest wrestlers of all time and greatest theme songs and stuff like that. But, sorry, I was just looking at something on my phone. But this was something he did entirely himself. This was a list I think he did all of himself, and it wasn't like it was a team list or anything like that. So his list included, I pulled it up here. I did comment on this on a podcast I did about a week ago with Randy Cruz. I was on the Cruise Control podcast, and I kind of forgot of what I said because he did this list. Eric did like well over a week ago, so I kind of forgot about it until you brought it back up and my thoughts on it. But for those that missed it, this was his top 25. 25 was Michelle McCool, 24 Jacqueline, 23 Bull Nakano, 22 Shayna Baszler, 21 Alundra Blaze, 20 Liv Morgan, 19 Alexa Bliss, 18 AJ Lee, 17 Mickie James, 16 Natalya, 15 Beth Phoenix, 14 the Bella Twins, 13 Io Sky, 12 Paige, 11 Ronda Rousey, 10 Lita, 9 Asuka, 8 Chyna, 7 Bianca Belair, 6 Bayley, 5 Sasha Banks, 4 Rhea Ripley, 3 Trish Stratus, 2 Charlotte Flair, and 1 Becky Lynch. So that's his list. I overall agree with it. I think some of the rankings I would change. I think Bella Twins being 14 is way too fucking high. Now, I know he did that because of their influence on the division at the time they were there and the whole Total Bellas or Total Divas thing. Actually, both shows, really. I agree with that. They belong on the list. But to put them over like Mickie James, I think is just wild to me. I mean, I know they had more influence than probably Mickie did. I mean, I don't even know if that's necessarily true, actually. I could not name you more than 3 great Bella Twins matches, and even that would be stretching it. I just would not put the Bella Twins that high. It is a bit of a recency bias with Rhea. Rhea is 4. I think it's way too early to say that Rhea is 4 on that list. She could be 4 overall all time when all is said and done. Although she's been in the main roster for 4 or 5 years now, I still say it's too soon to put her that high over Lita, who is at 10. Lita should be higher than Chyna, Bianca. Chyna being in that conversation, she was very influential. But again, it's not like she went in there and had these amazing matches. So if you're going to add Chyna on there, I would put Sable on there. Naomi, I saw people were pissed was missing. I would put Naomi on there over fucking Shayna Baszler. I like Shayna. Shayna was very good. I think that's really just counting her time in NXT. Her main roster run was not all that great at all. She was not involved in any really standout matches on the main roster for as long as she was there. But yeah, I mean, again, her run in NXT was very good, but all time, I would not put Shayna Baszler at 22. I think the rest of this is pretty fair, though. The people he included make sense. I would just change some of the rankings. Ronda Rousey belongs on that list. I don't know if she'd be at 11 necessarily, but, you know, she was influential. She had a lot of great matches. Her second run sucked, so I'd probably put her a little bit lower. I would probably put Mickie above Ronda. And, you know, this is only WWE, too. You got to remember. This is not including other companies. Michelle McCool, people have an issue with. I mean, I kind of understand that. Michelle McCool, I think, belongs on there. She did have an impact in the division for as long as she was there from 2008 to 2011. That whole division really revolved around her. I mean, she unified the Divas Championships. She was the women's champion on SmackDown for a long time. Lay Cool is memorable. She did have some decent matches. I don't have an issue with Michelle McCool being on the list. Jacqueline, I could see being on there. I think Jacqueline was the first black women's champion in WWE, if I'm not mistaken. So Jacqueline I get, Bull Nakano I get, Blaze I get, Baszler I would probably take off, replace with Naomi or something. Bianca and Rhea are just a little too high. They're great, but I still think it's too soon. Sasha and all the rest of the 4 horsewomen have a lot more years on them. So I would probably put Sasha and Bayley above Rhea and Bianca. I mean, I guess they are already above Bianca, but yeah, those are my thoughts on the list. Overall, I agree with it. I actually agree with Becky being number 1. I think Becky is, I think Trish is a legend. Trish is great. I would say Becky and Charlotte are much better than Trish overall. I mean, I know Trish was there during a more popular period, but Becky and Charlotte, along with Sasha and Bayley, really broke barriers for that women. Not to say that Trish didn't, but they broke barriers to where they were main eventing pay-per-views, WrestleMania itself, much more longevity than Trish had, better matches, better promos. I mean, Charlotte's character's kind of regressed, so that's why I would go with Becky over Charlotte. Becky's still involved in some great stuff and has helped get a lot of people over and stuff like that. She's also beaten a lot of the people on this list. Becky's never beaten Rhea, but she's beaten... I mean, she's never beaten Chyna because Chyna died, but almost everyone else in the top 10 she has beaten. She's beaten Charlotte, obviously. She's beaten Trish. She's never beaten Rhea. I think they had a match in NXT that ended in a DQ, so technically she's never beaten Rhea. She has beaten Sasha. Obviously, Bayley, she's beaten. Bianca, she's beaten. Chyna, dead. Asuka, she's beaten. And Lita, she's beaten. Ronda, she beat too. Paige, I think she may have beaten her on Raw one time. Io Sky, I don't know if she's ever beaten Io Sky. I feel like she has beaten Io Sky. The Bella Twins, she just beat Nikki Bella recently. Beth Phoenix, she wasn't around for. Natalia, she's beaten. Mickie James, she's beaten. AJ Lee, they just faced off recently in that tag team match, and she lost to her, but she might end up beating AJ Lee when all's said and done. Alexa Bliss, she's beaten. I think, right? Yeah, she's beaten Alexa Bliss before. Liv Morgan, she's beaten. Alundra Blaze is retired, obviously. Shayna, she's beaten. Bull Nakano was before her time. Jacqueline was before her time. And Michelle McCool was before her time. So Becky's actually beaten almost every single woman on this list, which is kind of insane. I think she's number one, not only for that reason, but for everything else that I mentioned. I know I spent a lot of time on that question, but it's a good question, and it was worth discussing. Christopher L's another one of his questions was Gail Kim. This was a big topic this past week. Gail Kim got into a lot of hot water online last week for her criticism of Riho, basically calling her a child and ridiculing her size and believability as an in-ring competitor against much larger opponents. I am 50-50 on this debate. I obviously have a ton of respect for Gail Kim and think she's a legend in the business. But I also found some of her criticism to be a little hypocritical, since her greatest rivalry was involving Awesome Kong, had her as the small underdog in a battle with a gargantuan woman. A female David versus Goliath, if you will. On top of that, you look at the women that WWE hire that aren't exactly much bigger than Riho. Women like Alexa Bliss, Liv Morgan, Stephanie Vaquer. I mean, Stephanie Vaquer is definitely bigger than Riho. Come on. Liv and Alexa Bliss, I agree with. And Io Shirai and Kairi. Stephanie Vaquer, come on, is much, I say bigger, but like Riho's like a fucking twig compared to that woman. Anyway, she said he also mentioned Io and Kairi, two Japanese women who barely go near 5'5", and yet nobody complains about that. So I find that a double standard thing as well. Sure, Riho may not have the charisma or as some of these other women have, but she still can be a sympathetic character who is wholly believable as a babyface underdog. Overall, I do agree with some points she made, but I also feel Gail was in the wrong and looked bad during her Twitter meltdown. So what are your thoughts about what went on? Do you think Gail was in the right or the wrong? Was Kenny an idiot for getting involved? Did Gail attacking Meltzer make the whole thing worse? And what lessons should we learn from this? I mean, I could talk about this for a while, but it's been so long since it happened, it's almost not even really worth discussing at great depth. We did mention it on WrestleRant Radio last week, because RJ had not heard of this when it happened. In short, Gail is entitled to her opinion. I actually agree to a certain extent. Riho is not all that believable depending on who she's in the ring with, because she is a lot smaller than most of those women. She is good, but she's not like as amazing as some of these other women that you mentioned that it would be more believable, like a Rey Mysterio, for example, where he was facing fucking Big Show and Mark Henry and people like that. But Rey Mysterio is one of the greatest of all time. Riho is not. I'm also just not a big Riho fan. But for her to complain about that in the match with Mercedes, I thought that was stupid, because Mercedes is closer to the size of Riho. It's not like Riho is in there with Jade Cargill or, I mean, even Nyla Rose. I mean, she actually beat Nyla Rose to win the Women's Championship all those years ago. So, I mean, it's just funny how this is an issue now. I mean, I guess she wasn't watching back then because she was in TNA and shit like that, but, I mean, it's her opinion. But then the fans, the AEW sickos jumping on Gail Kim for having an opinion, they got way too butthurt about it. To defend Riho, like, who cares? I mean, it was just a Gail Kim opinion. And had people not really responded to it the way that they did, it would not have turned into as big of a story. Gail Kim should have stopped tweeting after the first day. She just keeps tweeting about it for some reason. I have no fucking clue why. Go find other shit to do. Dave Meltzer getting involved was dumb. He was like, oh, this is Riho's has a history of bullying. Would you really have said that? Yeah. I mean, she's not bullying Riho. She has an opinion. She's entitled to her opinion. Meltzer was a moron for saying that. And then Kenny and Omega get involved. Oh, the TKO gift basket. It has nothing fucking to do with WWE. I mean, yeah, she was making comparisons like, oh, yeah, it's more believable in WWE for X, Y, and Z. You may not agree with it, which is fine, which I can understand. But then it's not to get in TKO's good graces. Like, I don't know. Kenny looked like a moron. Gail Kim ended up looking bad after a while. Meltzer looked dumb for it. The fans looked terrible because they were, precious Riho was criticized. The whole thing was just a fucking mess. Everyone kind of came out of it looking bad. So, and that conversation, by the way, is probably still going on, and it's been almost a week. We must move on from this. Anyways, next question. Thoughts on the Masha Slamovich story? From what I've heard and read, she looks absolutely horrid any way you look at it, from the allegations to the somewhat phony apology to their roommate even laying out even more incidents. It's just really, really bad overall. Yeah, it's a bad situation. I read about it when it first dropped last week. Her ex-boyfriend's friend came out and posted a Dropbox, not just tweets, a fucking Dropbox full of photos of DMs and texts and all this shit, photos of the abuse that she's hurled at him. Not just like saying shit, not just emotional abuse, but like physical abuse. Like, there were a lot of allegations levied against her that made her look really, really bad. And even if she's not that person anymore, she still did it. And it's not like it was 10 years ago. This was only like a year or so ago. It was not that long ago. And she was made to look really, really bad. And I'm sure he's not an angel in this whole thing, but, you know, he came across a lot better in his response to this story because he wasn't even the one that put all that stuff out there. It was the friend who was just sick of that shit after Masha made like 25 in the PWI 500. God knows, like, that was apparently what triggered that whole story. That whole story last week was her making the PWI 500 because she's an intergender wrestler, I guess. She wrestles some of the men at these shows and like GCW and shit, and they put her on the list. And then people, like, you know, this person was like, oh, she doesn't deserve it for X, Y, and Z because she's a piece of shit. Yeah, I mean, TNA's investigating it. I think she might be done. I mean, I saw her apology. It wasn't like the worst apology I've ever seen, but she made it sound like they were both equally responsible, which it doesn't look that way from the shit that was posted. It's been said that her TNA contract is up soon anyway. She might be cooked. I mean, TNA might not want to keep her. She might be too toxic. Any chance of her going to WWE might be over now. And it's unfortunate because she's very talented. She's improved a lot in TNA. She's been a great part of that division now for a few years, a real homegrown talent, in my opinion. And it may not even matter because she may have just been her own worst enemy with the way that she was acting. And some of the shit she was saying was fucking awful. Like, I don't think she's getting arrested or anything like that. Like, people are like, oh, she's going to jail. Like, I don't think she's going to jail. But she might not get many bookings after this, at least not by any major promising promotions. And again, she attempted to apologize, and it wasn't terrible, but it just wasn't ideal either. Not a good situation. And I don't think she's going to be getting involved in the whole NXT TNA invasion thing anytime soon. It might be over for her unless more stuff comes out. I mean, even if stuff comes out about the other guy, which I don't think it will, that makes him look bad too, like as bad as it does to her, she still did what she did, and it doesn't really look like she didn't do it. It's not like the photos were photoshopped or doctored or anything. Like, all that shit did happen, and she was talking about making a lot of like homophobic remarks and stuff like that. It was very strange. And very disappointing as a fan of her work. So, yeah, she might be cooked. We'll finish out with these few questions here, then we'll go back to the chat and we'll wind down. But he also asked, out of all three of these ladies, which Japanese stars do you think has the most upside? Io Shirai, Kairi Sane, or Asuka? The most upside of those three? I mean, currently it's obviously Io Shirai. It's Io Sky because Asuka's already been around for 10 plus years. She's older now. So the most upside is easily Io Sky. If you're talking about like all time, Asuka might have more upside just because she's had this extremely decorated career. Io Sky might be better in the ring than Asuka, but Io Sky, or Asuka rather, might be more marketable with like the face paint, and she's just been more established and more over. Io is very over right now, but we kind of have to see. It's too early to say for Io Shirai. I think Asuka will go down as the bigger star between the two, just for her accomplishments and how over she's been and how great matches she's had and shit like that. I would probably go Asuka overall. If we're talking currently, it's Io Shirai, because Asuka's closer to the end of her career than Io is. I might go Asuka overall. Currently, Io Sky. At Iwagu91, he said, he is nothing like Will Ospreay. When do you see Kyle Fletcher becoming AEW World Champion? Taking a shot at Kyle Fletcher there. Probably next year. This year is almost over, so not this year. I could see him winning the World Championship around this time next year. If not, in 2027 might be a better bet. I might say 2027, but I'll push it and be a little, I'll push the limit here and say 2026. Let's see, because Adam Page is champion. I don't think Fletcher beats him for it. MJF will probably be champion again. I'll go 2027. You know what? I'll go 2027 for Kyle Fletcher's world champion. And I do think it should happen at some point, by the way. His second question, do you see Chris Jericho returning to WWE or remaining in AEW? P.S. He's not angry, he's just disappointed. Playing off the whole learning tree bullshit when Jericho left TV back in April. I think he's returning to WWE. I think he should return to WWE. If he stays in AEW, he's only doing it for the creative control and for the money, the better schedule, all of which I understand. But creatively, he is just much better off in WWE at this point. He's done all that he could do in AEW. On the shows, he drags down any show that he's on in AEW. The whole learning tree shit is just garbage. He can really play up the nostalgia in WWE. I mean, for a quick, brief, fucking part-timer run going into Mania or whatnot might be fine for Jericho. I just feel like if he was coming back to AEW, they would have brought him back at All Out in Canada. They would have gone nuts for Jericho, I would imagine, if he returned on that show and attacking Big Bill or some shit. He didn't. It was, he didn't show up at all. They had other people show up. They had fucking Pac show up and Beth Phoenix and all this other sort of stuff. Luchasaurus, Jack Perry returned. The Luchasaurus was already there. But, I think if Jericho was going to return, it would have been on that show. He didn't, so if he was coming back to put over Big Bill, I feel like they would have done it already. They're just moving on, which is just wild to me. I mean, that shit is just terrible. The fact that he just disappeared and did not put over Big Bill on the way out is absolute garbage. What an absolute waste of time is that learning tree bullshit. But I do think he's going to WWE, as he should. Thoughts on AJ Styles announcing that he's retiring next year, Iwagu91 said. It sucks because he's one of my favorites of all time. So him retiring at the same time that Cena is and Hiroshi Tanahashi, as others have said, it feels like an end of an era. But I get it. He wants to, wind down while he can still go at the top of his game and not be the AJ Styles of old. And he is almost 50. He's 48 as it is right now. I'm kind of surprised he's still going, to be honest, because he said in 2019 that, this contract will be my last. And that was 6 years ago. And he's still going strong, which is great. But at the same time, I don't blame him one bit. Hopefully they can treat him like a legend on the way out. I would love to see him go to AEW once, just to have a couple matches there and really get that grand send-off. I don't know if he's going to get that in WWE. I'm not really sure. I hope he does, because the guy's a legend and deserves it and should have some banger matches on the way out. If he wants to retire in WWE, that's great too. But part of me would almost like to see him, wrestle for another 6 months in AEW, if that's even possible. And then face Omega and face some of the guys they have there and go out on his own terms, wrestle in Japan one more time for New Japan, and then call it a year, call it a career, but I don't know if that's in the cards. And last question from @millennial_noob. I already mentioned the Blood and Guts one, but his other question was, which match will main event Crown Jewel this year? The champion versus champion matches or the women's tag team match between the Kabuki Warriors versus Rhea and Io? Definitely champion. Cody and Rollins. I think the Kabuki Warriors versus Rhea and Io match is going to be great. The storyline's been great. I know you've been really high on it, asking me about it every single week. But that's not main eventing that show. I mean, I know Rhea's from Australia. There's nothing on the line in the match. It's not like an important match. Regardless of who wins, that doesn't feel like it should main event that show. It's a big match. It's going to be a great match. But that feels more like an opener than a main event. Cody and Rollins feels like a very big attraction. The way they built it up has been great. I don't give a shit about the whole Crown Jewel Championship thing. I've said that quite a bit before. Stephanie and Tiffany's not closing out that show. I mean, that's a very random match, and there's no history there at all. Should be a good match, though. Cody and Rollins are guaranteed to have a great to excellent match, I'm sure, even if we get interference, unfortunately. But it's a whole big deal. Rollins has never beaten Cody one-on-one, at least since Cody's been back in the company for the past 3 years. He wants to avenge those losses on the show. Will Cody win, or will Rollins get his win back and avenge those losses? There's a good story there, and I've been enjoying their segments on Raw. The video package last night was also great. I feel like that has to close the show. I get that the whole Rhea-Io thing has been great on Raw, and Rhea's from Australia, but there's nothing at stake, and it's not like it ends the show on a big high note, even if Rhea Ripley were to win. So it's not even as if it's just a tag team match, too. It's not even a singles match. So I would definitely go with Cody and Rollins in the main event of that show. And I would open that event with Kabuki Warriors. Actually, you can even open with Cena and Styles. That's another match you did not mention. You mentioned every other match but that one. But I could see Cena and AJ also potentially, people making an argument for it closing. Again, it's a match that doesn't mean anything aside from the fact that it's an attraction. That also should not close. But I could see that going on first, and then Kabuki Warriors versus Rhea and Io in the middle, and then closing out with Cody and Seth Rollins. That sounds like a hell of a show, to be honest with you. And that does it for the scheduled questions here. We will wrap up here in a moment. Tom, what's going on, brother? He said, what's up, my guy? Tom, hope you're doing well. Tom and I had a conversation for his channel yesterday. It's going to be up on his channel at some point. So be sure to check out that interview. Tom was gracious with his time. We talked for a while. I do tend to ramble quite a bit, so I appreciate his patience. But yeah, Tom does some great work. So check out his channel. Click on his name. Check out his channel. He does a lot of interviews. He's done almost 250, interviewing a lot of people from the wrestling media space. It's content creators, reactors, and a lot more. So that interview should be up at some point, the one that him and I did. And when it does go up, I will share it on my socials and here on the channel in the community tab. So keep an eye out for that, but also subscribe to his channel, like I said. But thank you, Tom, for joining us. I appreciate seeing you here in the chat. Let's see. Other last couple comments here. My favorite match, I already answered that one. I think they're taking time off. What grade do I give the PWI list overall this year? I mean, I don't really grade that shit overall. I mean, it's a fucking kayfabe list. It's fine. I think the list makes sense, so probably B. B+. I don't know. It's not like this amazing list. I don't really put a whole lot of stock in the PWI 500, but the list makes sense. Their rankings were pretty logical, so I'll go B. And then last comment here from Johnny. How about Cody Rhodes versus Chris Jericho at WrestleMania for the WWE title? Absolutely fucking not, Johnny. Johnny, the master troller that you are, that would be terrible. That would be terrible. I know you're going off of, I don't know if you're going off of, I know you're joking, but Jericho and Cody did, I think, it didn't main event Full Gear in 2019, but they had a match at Full Gear 2019 where, because Cody lost, he could not contend for the championship. It would honestly be kind of fitting if they faced off in WWE for a world championship with Cody as the champion. Maybe they can promise that Jericho cannot challenge for the championship as long as Cody's champion or whatever. You could play off of it. But they're not going to acknowledge their history in AEW. I highly doubt. And Jericho should be nowhere near the world championship at this point of his career, in my opinion. But I could see what you're going for, but no thanks. I will pass on that one. So I think that's going to do it, guys, for today's episode of #AskGSM, episode 618. Thank you so much for tuning in, as always, whether you're watching live, have watched live, or watching after the fact. I greatly appreciate it. While you're here, be sure to consider signing up for a channel membership. You get a badge next to your name, access to emojis, early and ad-free access to certain videos here on the channel, top billing and shows like this one. If you send in a question to the show ahead of time, I will answer it first before anyone else's. More information that down below in the description box for channel members. But shout out to our existing channel members, Alexis, Miss Maud Matthews, Dillon, DiGiacomo, Mrs. Renee, DJ Swerve1 at Swerve1 on IG, Daniel Malcolm at I'm Quarter on X, Mr. Marceau himself, RJ Marceau at RJ_Marceau on X as well. John Ritland right here on YouTube, Real Honesty with John Ritland, Richie as well, Red Planet Wrestling on YouTube, and last but not least, Average Grunt, who was here in the chat a little bit earlier on, at gruntwrestling.bluesky.social on Blue Sky. More information on that down below in the description box, but you can also simply support the show just by liking the video, subscribing to the channel, hit the notification bell to be notified every single time we upload new content and every single time we're live here on the channel. The next time for which, by the way, should be on Thursday for WrestleRant Radio. Time TBD. Typically, it's around noon, 11 a.m., 1 p.m., 8 a.m. It's somewhere in that range, Eastern time. So just turn on notifications. You'll be notified when we do go live. And what we're talking about this week, I have no fucking clue. But we will talk about it when we get to it coming up on the show on Thursday following last week's newsworthy episode. So check that out if you haven't already. Last but not least, if you want to send in a question to this show for next week's edition of #AskGSM, if you have a question you want to send in ahead of time, you could do so by tweeting me on the Twitter machine at WrestleRant with the #AskGSM. Find me on Facebook as well, facebook.com/Graham.gsm.Matthews. Drop a comment on the post. I usually put up on Tuesday nights, or on Monday nights, if not on the wall itself on the Facebook page. And right down in the comment section down below on this very video, I'll include your question on next week's edition. With all that being said, guys, thank you so much for tuning in. As always, everyone here in the chat from earlier on and from a little while ago, thank you so much for tuning in. I appreciate it. And enjoy the rest of your week, and we'll catch you right back here on Thursday for an all-new episode of WrestleRant Radio. So, until next time, guys, have an awesome one. I'm Graham GSM Matthews, and I'll catch your ass down the road.